It's 900 hours Central Africa time here on this Blue Monday here on the newsroom. Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
Yeah, it certainly is a Blue Monday, Elvis. I've got a bit of a cold. Good morning to you, Makai Chicken, Nakendal Makamat.
Now, this morning, of course, we want to focus on the State Security Agency lawyers who gave the publishers of Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers, only 5 days. 5 days to withdraw it from circulation and stop any further printing.
Very interesting. And we want to find out from you, what do you make of the attempts by SARS and the State Security Agency to ban this book?
Well, there you have it. Hashtag the President's Keepers. Please keep them coming. Tozamile says, I fail to understand how the SSA operates because they should have detected this book earlier. I hear the sarcasm in that tweet there dripping.
Yes, and Kariso Munyadiwa says their masks have fallen. Hence, they wanted to take legal action against Jacques Pauw. Although I feel they, the SSA, do not have a leg to stand on.
Well, do they or don't they? That's the question. You can let us know what's on your mind. We'll read them as we continue. But today we also focus on a gunman. Killed 26 and injured 20 people when he opened fire at a Baptist church in the small Texas town of Sutherland Springs. And that's why we're asking you this question.
Absolutely. What do you think the Texas attacker will be labeled as? Hey, do you think A, it will be labeled as a terror attack or mentally ill or as a lone wolf?
Well, there you have it. That's what we want to know from you. So far, Michael Big M Satola says terror attacks is the order of the day as always. And then people, especially our media, will always paint South Africa as a crime capital. Look at the USA. They say don't point a finger because three will be staring back at you.
Right, let me see if I can read this quickly. Mini Starring says, white man shooting at other white people. The US will label this as a mentally ill individual or a lone wolf. Never a terrorist.
That's very interesting. Like to get your thoughts on that. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But as always, sports question, and especially on a Monday, it was a packed weekend, wasn't it, of all sorts of sports, right?
Absolutely. As you can see behind us are photographs of Lenkies crashing and colliding with Khune during the Telkom knockout quarterfinal on the weekend. Chiefs did win that match, but there's Khune on a stretcher going to hospital for his scan. It's been revealed that he's got a fracture on his cheekbone.
Yes, and it's a difficult one because, I mean, Bafana's around the corner to play
Senegal,
critical matches, yeah?
Absolutely, and I want to find out from you, who's your preferred replacement for Khune should he get ruled out of that match against Senegal this Friday?
Well, Michael Big M says Wayne Sunderlands, but no Ronwin Williams or Darren Keat because those two are only good at club level, but I'm 100% Khune. He's 100% sure that Khune will be back on time. Well, we'll see it. Wait and see.
This will actually show us what we've got in terms of goalkeeping cover. Tozamile says, I wish Khune a speedy recovery because at the moment he's the best goalkeeper we have. So I'd prefer Ronwin Williams to replace him.
Well, there's already one on the table. What do you think? But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. The chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal has been shot dead in an ambush. Moving to the United States of Texas, at least 26 people have been killed and 20 wounded in that mass shooting at a Baptist church. And back here at home, the ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his preferred candidate or running mate for the Deputy President position. That's in the leadership campaign for the party's elective conference in December. Very interesting slates being drawn, of course, a line in the sand there being drawn by the Deputy President. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as well. But right now, before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. A very busy weekend we've just come out of and lots to look forward to in the sports bulletin for today. Obviously, the big one really is about what happened in the Telkom knockout right towards the end of that match. The draw was done. We know who's going to be playing who. We know the Chiefs won and are through, but we're also waiting to see what's going to happen.
Very concerning about Khune, though.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Look, Sekola. Ooh. I think that clash from Lenkies was not on purpose, but he couldn't stop himself, and Khune is hurt.
The nation's on 10 to hook as it waits to find out whether Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana goalkeeper Khune will make it to the crucial first leg World Cup qualifier against Senegal on Friday. Manchester City are running amok at the top of the English Premier League as they equal a club record 9 consecutive league wins with a through-run victory over Arsenal at the Etihad.
Fernandinho, De Bruyne again. Nothing Kennicek can do about the second one. Manchester City lead again.
What a victory for the Lesotho athlete.
Tsepo Matiwele from Lesotho wins a tough Soweto Marathon as deferred van Sail breaks the local runner's drought, becoming the first South African woman to win since 2009 to win the race.
Just outside the 2:40 mark, a 2:41.04. She crosses the finish line. It is South Africa's Yvette van Sail.
All this and more I've got for you later on in the Sports Bulletin, around about 10:40 or so. Do stay around because Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal has been shot dead. The taxi boss was ambushed on the road between Utrecht and Osezweni. Sources say that the killing is related to a feud over the Newcastle-Johannesburg taxi route. The killing follows last week's murder of another taxi boss at Ladysmith, also in the Midlands. 10 other people, including teachers, were killed in that incident. In news from abroad now, in the US, police are trying to establish the motive of a gunman who carried out one of the deadliest shootings in the United States in recent decades. US media is identifying him as Devon Kelly, a military veteran dishonorably discharged from the Air Force 3 years ago. 26 people were killed and 20 injured when he opened fire at a Baptist church during a service in the small Texas town of Sutherland Springs. The gunman was found dead after the incident in his vehicle. US President Donald Trump has described the shooting as an act of evil and expressed his sympathy for the victims. The latest mass shooting comes just over a month after a gunman in Las Vegas fired down from a hotel room onto an outdoor concert, killing 58 people and wounding hundreds. And of course, that's why we are checking with you on that particular shooting. What do you think? This gunman will be labeled as killing 26 people, wounding 20 so far. And we're asking you, of course, is it a terror attack, mentally ill, or is he a lone wolf? Now, so far, 57% are suggesting that they would say that it was a terror attack. 23% that he's mentally ill, and 20% that he's a lone wolf. You can still tweet us the entire day and let us know what's on your mind. A huge new leak of financial documents has revealed how the powerful and ultra-wealthy, including Britain's Queen Elizabeth private estate, secretly invest vast amounts of cash in offshore tax havens based in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. US President Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is shown to have a stake in a firm dealing with Russian sanctioned by the US. Now, the leak, dubbed the Paradise Papers, contains 13 million documents, mostly from one leading firm in offshore finance. Now, the race to December is on, and ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his preferred candidate for the Deputy President's position. The announcement comes during the leadership campaigns for the party's elective conference in December. Speaking at a rally outside Groblersdal in Limpopo yesterday, Ramaphosa also confirmed that former KwaZulu-Natal ANC chairperson Senzo Khune was contesting the Secretary-General position. Other members of Ramaphosa's slate included the current ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe for the chairperson's position, and current Gauteng MEC Paul Mashatile for the Treasurer-General position. Ramaphosa took his campaign to Mpumalanga and Limpopo this weekend. Now, efforts to bring unity within the African National Congress-led alliance will continue again today with a bilateral meeting between the ANC and the South African Communist Party. President Jacob Zuma will lead the ANC delegation, while Dr. Bladen Zamande will lead the SACP. Now, this will be the second interaction between the ANC and the SACP leadership in a fortnight following the Alliance Political Council at the end of October. Yesterday, President Zuma also called for party unity. He says factions have been so entrenched that comrades now see each other as enemies.
As the year draws to a close, so are the celebrations of OR Tambo's centenary year. President Zuma did not waste any time urging unity among the ANC's warring factions.
Policy yethu ke ithi noma ngabe ubunama imbono strong against othile uthanda othile.
Our policy states that even if you have your own opinion against a person, respect the delegates at the ANC and the December conference.
Uma sethatha isinqumo athi nange simkhethayo noma ngabe ubungamthandi.
When delegates elect a person whom you disagree with, embrace the person because this will strengthen the party and will not divide it.
Ngoba lokho kuzokwenza ukuthi umbutho uhlangane ungahlukani.
The MKMVA has long thrown its weight behind Dlamini Zuma, while the West Rand declared its support for Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. With only 10 days remaining before the branch general meetings conclude their nominations, the race to replace President Zuma is likely to intensify.
The ANC-NEC will decide the fate of its Eastern Cape executive this week. The new PEC had been elected at a chaotic conference last month. But members who supported the ousted chairperson, Phumula Masaole, are challenging the outcome in court.
Meeting to resolve internal squabbles. The newly elected provincial executive confident they can unite the party and win back the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro from the opposition. But first, it has to deal with the fallout from last month's chaotic elective conference. ANC members have taken their dispute over the conference to the courts.
What we will not agree about is members of the ANC that downplay the reality that the ANC has a provincial executive committee in the Eastern Cape. Henceforth, we are going to every region, work with them, seek to deal with those particular perceptions out there, whatever perceptions that they have. So we are committed to working with them, and there is no issue about it.
The fate of the newly elected PEC is in the hands of the party's National Executive Committee.
We are waiting for the decision of the NEC. Remember, this matter is an organizational matter, and as a region, we're supposed to follow, that is, the internal processes.
The ANC-NEC meeting is set to take place in Gauteng from the 11th to the 13th of this month. Anda Ngonji, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
The State Security Agency may have no legal basis to order the withdrawal of Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers. So says Pepelape Dube, the director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. On Friday, lawyers representing the State Security Agency gave the book's publishers 5 days in which to withdraw it from circulation and stop any further printing. Now, they claim the book violated the Tax Administration and the Intelligence Services Act.
Does the law allow the agency to order its withdrawal? The Center for Constitutional Rights says no.
We're talking about a book that's been written by a journalist who hasn't been in the employ of either the State Security Agency or SARS itself. So it would appear as if the State Security Agency has simply misunderstood the law, and there's really no legal basis to seek to ban the book.
But the police minister holds a different view.
It is within the right of SSA to take him on the matters if ever he has actually published classified information. There is nothing untoward about that. It is a matter that happens in the environment we are in, because we can't allow people to undermine the authority of the state, including things that are classified. If they are classified issues, they must be attended to. And journalists must know that classified information is classified information. And rule of law must apply.
But what do ordinary South Africans make of the controversy surrounding the book? This gentleman says the book mustn't be removed before the president has responded to the allegations. He adds, if he responds and we can see these were wrongful accusations, we will support him in having the book banned. While this gentleman says we need to know before the president leaves how much of the state's money he's stolen. Whoever published this book, no matter their race, is welcome here as long as they publish the truth. The publishers are expected to respond to the agency's cease and desist letter this week, although it's already stated publicly that it won't accede to the state agency's order. Lukhanyo Chalada, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, on that expose, that book by Jacques Pau, people taking him to court. They don't want the book on the racks. What is in that book? That is the question we pose to you. What do you think? What do you make of these attempts by SARS as well as the SSA to ban the book, The President's Keepers? What is in it that we're not supposed to see? Let me take a look at what you are telling me. This one coming from Motlong says, what the writer said about the attempt of stopping that book. It's simple, isn't it? Lachasa Batlamola says, South Africans should be united now. Jacques Pau told us his side of the story. Enough is enough. I already bought mine. Of course, Lachasa's got his copy on the racks. And Paul says, why is our government an enemy of success? I don't see anything wrong about the book. Hands off, Jacques Pau. Well, freedom of speech, they call it. Let the man speak his mind. What do you think? Now, let's continue now. Municipalities need to be strengthened to deliver better services. That's the word from Cooperative Governance Minister Des van Rooyen. He's been assessing the performance of municipalities in the Northwest.
The Northwest has 4 district councils and 18 local municipalities. Over half of them are in dire need of improvement.
Those that are enjoying our attention, there are 11 municipalities, 7 coming from the 2015-2016 AG's report. Those are the municipalities that obtained disclaimers. And the rest, coming from our own assessment as the Back to Basic program.
The Tswahing local municipality is one of the worst affected. A few weeks ago, the community took to the streets. The service delivery protest turned violent. They complained, a lack of water, a problem that's been running for years. Following the recent protests, water had been restored for a few days, but the taps have run dry again.
We have a lot of trouble with water. We can't tap baths, we don't have water for animals, nothing to cook with.
The municipalities lack the capacity to deliver on the concerns of residents.
We have taken a resolution that those local municipalities that falls within Ngakamudiri Mulema, we are busy trying to assist them to be water service authority.
The government says there are plans in the pipeline to provide better services. Lizetla Beskagni, SABC News, Mahikeng.
Now, 33-year-old Harry Kotze will appear in the Khartoum Magistrates Court this morning for his bail application. The Northern Cape man allegedly drove his bakkie into a group of men last month, killing one and seriously injuring another. Kotze has been in jail since the alleged racially motivated incident.
Kotze faces a Schedule 6 offence for premeditated murder. The state alleges he drove his bakkie into the group of 4 men last month. The incident is said to have happened after an altercation between Kotze and the victims. 20-year-old Elcardo Crew died on arrival at the hospital, while his friend Eshrik Molino was seriously injured. Who does something like this? Drive over someone and kills them because of swearing at each other? What type of person does that? Community members opposed bail during Kotze's last court appearance. The court heard that Kotze called the victims the K-word before he drove into them. The accused was convicted of criminal injuria in 2007 for calling a colleague the K-word. There have been calls for calm and for the law to take its course. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Katu, Northern Cape.
Staying in court, the cross-examination of triple murder accused Henry van Breda is expected to continue in the Cape Town High Court today. Last week, he conceded under cross-examination that it would be strange for an attacker to enter his family home unarmed and to use weapons from the house. Van Breda is accused of killing his parents and older brother with an axe and seriously injuring his sister at the Desalza estate home 2 years ago. He faced a grilling from the state prosecutor Susan Galloway last week. Van Breda claims an axe-wielding intruder entered their home and attacked his family. He told the court that he disarmed the attacker, who later fled. Now we'll bring you the latest from that court case as soon as it starts out in Cape Town and give you a live update on that. Meanwhile, the family of Sizwe Vilakazi, the head of legal services at the SABC, says they're still struggling to come to terms with his brutal murder. It's alleged that 3 armed men entered his business premises in Tsakani, east of Johannesburg, on Saturday and shot him 5 times. They then fled the scene without taking anything.
After the attack on their son, the Vilakazi family is struggling to come to terms with the brutal murder.
Father called me and then he said to me, call an ambulance, Sizwe was shot. You know, I rushed there. You know, I think it took me 5 minutes to go to the scene, and then when I arrived, he was lying on the floor, motionless. I wasn't even sure whether he's breathing or something, and then I tried to call the paramedics. I called the government ambulance, I called 911. Both of them arrived at the scene. The first one declared him dead on the scene, and then the 911 arrived as well, and then they also declared him dead. But I keep on insisting that, you know what, please try again. But they did, but apparently he was gone.
The motive for the murder is not yet known.
When the police get to the scene, nothing has been taken, according to the family. Nothing has been stolen, only that they get into the shop and they start shooting, and then they flood the scene with the blue Polo Vivo.
Distraught colleagues visited the Vilakazi home, many describing him as a remarkable legal mind with exceptional intuition and work ethic.
Sizwe was one of the best legal minds that we had, and Sizwe served the SABC with integrity. We will miss his stubbornness. Sizwe was sometimes misunderstood, even undermined, but he was one of the best that we had.
Vilakazi was hired as a senior legal advisor in 2008. He was appointed head of legal services in September last year. He's survived by 6 children. Mahlako Komane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, our picture of the day comes from Coach Dukes. It says, what will South African football without Mzansi's finest? There you go. Lenki's hit Khune with Randy Orton's RKO. Hashtag pray for Khune. As you know, Khune was stretchered off there from the field, and we're waiting to hear. And of course, there's a question on the sports question today. We want to know from you, what do you think should replace Khune if he can't recover in time? You can also let us know on the Twitter handle, and Kendall will bring you an update on some of your comments a little bit later. Talking about comments, the comment of the day comes from Larry Fitzgerald, sending out my most heartfelt condolences out to the families in that Texas church shooting. What was done in that church is despicable. Well, moving on to our courts now. Today, in the Northern Cape, the 33-year-old Harry Kotze will appear in the Khartoum Magistrates Court for his bail application. The Northern Cape man allegedly drove his bakkie into a group of men last month, killing one and seriously injuring another. Kotze has been in jail since the alleged racially motivated incident. Moving to Cape Town, the cross-examination of the triple murder accused Henry van Breda is expected to continue in the Cape Town High Court today. Van Breda is accused of killing his parents and older brother with an axe at a Desalza estate in Stellenbosch in January 2015. Now, he faced a grilling from the state prosecutor, Susan Galloway, last week. Van Breda claims an axe-wielding intruder entered their house and attacked his family. He told the court that he disarmed the attacker, who later fled. And here in Johannesburg, the case against the convicted drug dealer Radovan Krecher and 4 others accused of killing Lebanese national Sam Issa, that is expected to continue in the Johannesburg High Court today. Issa was gunned down in Bedfordview in 2013, allegedly due to a dispute over a 500,000 rand loan that Issa made to Krecher. In 2015, The criminal kingpin was convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs. He was sentenced to 35 years imprisonment by the Johannesburg High Court. And some more court news in Pretoria. The son of former SABC board member Hope Zinde, Mark Zinde, will be back in the High Court in Pretoria this morning. This after his legal team postponed the case last week. The murder case was deferred to allow the Weskoppies Mental Hospital to finalize its evaluation report. Zinde, who stands accused of murdering his mother as well as assaulting his father while on bail, was referred to the institution for evaluation during his last court appearance. Those are some of the court appearances. We'll keep you updated with those developments on these cases. You have to stay tuned, but right now, we'll take a break. We'll be right back after that. And of course, we're taking a look at bogus doctors again, a very important issue here in South Africa.
I failed Cyril personally.
And it's nutritious and delicious.
It's good. I really like it.
This celebrates being South African. We love our beer, we love our food, we love our music.
For knowing who you are going, you must know where you come from.
I'm excited to be part of this year.
For all your travel trends, catch us every Sunday, 12 midday on Channel 404.
Thandi, what did you make of the social media reaction to the news of the death of Makaka?
People are trying to grapple with the reasons why this is happening. I don't think that's being explained nearly enough.
Professor?
KZN has got a history of this factionalism.
Why are police not getting to the bottom of the scourge?
It's a national disaster that we still are dealing with political killings.
Professor Daniels, just who do you think is behind these killings then? Let me put you on the spot there.
The problems in this country started when the Scorpions were disbanded. And is that what we're going to be seeing now? Deaths, smear campaigns and stuff like that. It's got to stop.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor and catch on analysts unpacking top stories every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Now, the Health Professionals Council of South Africa, the HPCSA, is concerned with a growing number of bogus doctors operating in the country, and they are currently investigating nearly 500 cases involving suspicious practitioners. The South African Medical Association has also raised alarm over an increased number of fake doctors who sneak through the Health Professional Council's officials into various South African health sectors with their fake qualifications. The Medical Association has admitted that they are exposed to a great number of scammers and imposters. Dr. Sizeka Mawaya is the South African Medical Association SAMA, warned that the issue of fake doctors was becoming a widespread problem in South Africa. Earlier, we spoke to Dr. Mawaya about the problem of fake doctors operating here in our country.
As the South African Medical Association, this is a very big concern because it actually brings the whole profession into disrepute. And then it actually put us in a situation whereby we actually wonder if the people who are actually in charge of making these doctors to practice in our country are really taking it very seriously, because it puts our patients in a very predicament situation. Remember, most of them don't have a choice but to trust whoever they come across as who's imposing or posing as a doctor.
How does one then practice as a doctor without qualifications in South Africa, and is it even possible?
From where we're sitting, it's actually impossible to practice as a doctor when you are actually not registered, because you go through a lot of registration bodies, let alone when you come from outside the country. One, you'll actually be vetted by the Health Professions Council of South Africa. And then there's also a Department of Home Affairs. There's actually the National Department of Health and the Foreign Workforce. So if somebody can go through all these red tapes and still practice in this country without registered properly, I'm not saying that only those who come from outside are bogus doctors, but we also have those who are from our country as well, who actually practice as bogus. And then it's actually impossible from where we're sitting, because at the end of the day, everybody must be registered with the Health Professions Council. And you must get what we call a Health Professions Council number in a form of MP number. Every doctor has to go through that. As to how people go through without actually being vetted, it's actually boggles us.
Now, one of the examples is where the Hawks and RTMC identified a doctor, a fake doctor that has been operating for more than 10 years in this country without detected or exposed. How is that even possible? And she was, of course, issuing fake PDPs. So,
it's usually because those are the kind of people who knows how to beat the system. What they do is that, remember, as a doctor, there are two ways that you can actually get paid. One is from a patient who pays you cash. Two is from the medical aids. So in that case, one of them, it usually happens that these bogus doctors, they usually don't use medical aids whereby you have to be registered with BHF, whereby you can only claim. But in that case, what this doctor was doing, I would like to assume that she was only taking cash from patients. And like I said before, because our people are desperate for help, they actually trust everybody who fake or who actually practice or who actually calls himself or herself as a doctor, because they are desperate for cheap medical care. In most cases, you find that these doctors, they don't charge competitive fees that a normal doctor would charge. They would actually charge very little amounts, and then people will actually go to them.
Is there perhaps a syndicate in operation here, Doctor? For in many instances, these fake doctors were operating from legal premises where there used to be a practitioner.
I would like to believe so, because I think it's a big syndicate whereby people actually pose as a group to actually say, let's practice this kind of a profession. Remember, doctors in most cases, they are the most trusted individuals in the whole world. And then as such, everybody who comes in to say, I'm a doctor, or even can form that syndicate, they will be easily be trusted, because people feel that a doctor cannot cheat. It's somebody who's very trusted. And people take advantage of such kind of things.
Now, for the sake of not sounding perhaps xenophobic, it seems like many of these doctors comes from outside our borders and, of course, from the continent. Is that a problem for you? And how do we weed out this problem in relation to fake doctors in South Africa?
Thanks so much, Elvis, for that statement. I was once in trouble for saying that most of the doctors who practice as bogus come from outside. I would be very careful this time, but in a way you are right, because the people beat the system. It's not actually all of them who come from outside. Like I said before, we also have doctors who come from this country. But let me put it this way. Remember, the doctors who come from outside, they've got 2 or 3 type of employers, or who will be one. It will be a South African doctor who has got 2 surgeries, maybe 200 kilometers or 100 kilometers apart, who will appoint this doctor without doing a proper vetting or even actually checking exactly where the doctor has qualified. 2, you'll have a doctor who's actually employed by the Department of Health, either provincial, in the provincial setup. And the other ones are actually appointed by the NGOs, what we call the non-governmental organizations. So all these people, before you appoint them, they actually go through vetting as to whether those who are employed by our own colleagues, they do the same thing. We really don't know. Remember, there was also a story whereby a doctor employed another doctor somewhere around in Rustenburg some years back, whereby he was working in his practice without actually going through proper checks and balances. So in a way, I would say that it would be those doctors from outside who actually take advantage of the system, and those who are inside who actually realize that, oh, if this is, it looks like it is possible to practice without being actually registered properly. So in a way, it's just that the majority of them will come from outside, but we also have South African doctors who are actually practicing the same trades. I would actually give you a simplest example. There was a child who came to one of the hospitals that I work to say that she's a cardiologist, and she was only 25 years. And she was actually taking advantage of the system. I have to actually go through and with her through the years to say, it takes longer to be a cardiologist. It takes longer to be a cardiologist. At your age, it means you started medical school or going to school before you were born.
Now, Doctor, how do we find a solution to this problem?
I would say that we need all the stakeholders to work together. Like I said, 1, the Health Professions Council, 2, the Home Affairs, the National Department of Health, the Foreign Workforce, and also the South African Medical Association. Remember, we are doctors. We know where our colleagues are. We know we have got the system where we can actually even look at them to say, is this really a doctor or not? Remember, as SAMA, we're actually affiliated with the World Medical Association, whereby we can actually have the database of all the doctors who actually wants to come into the country to say, hang on, can we check with this, can we check with that? Because we're actually affiliated with the with the World Medical Association. So as such, but I would say the government, the HPCSA, can actually invite us as South African Medical Association to work with them to say, can we help each other? Because we are very much concerned about our patients as doctors of this country.
Well, there you heard it from the horse's mouth, Dr. Sizeka Maweya. He is a family specialist and also with the South African Medical Association, or SAMA, telling us about the problem that they face as an organization that really have to look after doctors in this country. Well, let's now take a look at the front pages of the newspapers from around the globe. And we're starting off in Europe. The Times report that the Queen invested millions of pounds in offshore tax havens. Now that's according to financial documents that was leaked after a law firm was hacked. If you can see there, offshore tax havens with the Queen. Yeah. Moving to New York, the Financial Times says at least 11 Saudi Arabian princes, and dozens of senior officials and prominent businessmen, including one of the world's richest men, have been arrested by the country's new anti-corruption commission. And then finally in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that the Israeli Defense Forces yesterday said it was in possession of the remains of 5 of the 12 Islamic Jihad terrorists who died in last week's tunnel explosion after finding their bodies inside Israel. Now those are your newspapers from around the globe. We'll take a short break. And when we come back, we continue with a focus on bogus doctors.
Well-informed with primetime news.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SABC News Prime. The burning land reform issue was also a point of discussion on the first day.
If you do not have a skills revolution, you will run into the kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
We have funded about 466,000 students, out of about 800,000 students that are in the university system.
South Africa says insufficient electricity and water remains one of the biggest barriers to development and prosperity on the continent.
The top 4 batsmen in the squad, Hashim Amla, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers, are certainties in the starting lineup.
I really believe we cover all bases when it comes to spin bowling, seam bowling, proper pace bowling, and an amazing batting lineup.
Stay tuned every Monday to Sunday from 6 p.m.
A lot of us rely on tech to survive, and Africa is already a mobile-first continent.
We build mobile technology that connects motorcycle taxis to commuters and businesses in real time.
My phone was the most important thing.
Africans are using technology to innovate. On Network, we have African technology and social media news. Even robots have heard about us.
Hello, watch Network on SABC.
For African technology and social media news, join Ms. Phumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 9 p.m.
The National Traffic Anti-Corruption Unit under the Road Traffic Management Corporation, the RTMC, has since last week carried out raids on premises of bogus doctors operating in South Africa. Already, 3 bogus doctors were arrested during a raid on their Kuruleni premises where they issued medical certificates to unfit drivers wanting to apply for professional driver's permits or PDPs. Now, the Anti-Corruption Unit, with the assistance of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, the Medicines Control Council, MedScheme and the Hawks, will also be carrying out raids on a number of premises in the Johannesburg CBD. Spokesperson of the RTMC, Simon Zwane, is on this wave this morning, in fact, but they're going to postpone that particular raid. He's in studio with us to tell us a little bit more about that. A very good morning to you, Mrs. Zwane, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Now, you've indicated that there will be raids, but we don't want to tell everybody when. Yes. Tell us about these raids, and you started last week already with it.
Yeah, no, we've been on this for some time now. It emanates from our own investigations that indicated that the reason we're having so many accidents on the roads is that because people are obtaining their driver's licenses and public driver's permits through fraudulent means. Now, part of that investigation showed that the problem starts with the way that they obtain the certificates of medical fitness.
How do they obtain it?
Well, they actually buy them.
Ah.
The requirement is that you must go to your doctor, you get checked for a number of ailments, including high blood pressure, diabetes, epilepsy, and other conditions. But what we've discovered happens, you go to the doctor in exchange for a certain sum of money. In other places, it's 100 rand. The doctor just signs off. They never check these people. So we suspect they are not medically fit to obtain public driver's permits, and they're not medically fit to be driving those vehicles that they're driving. So that's how we got involved in this thing. And you said, because that's where it starts. It starts with obtaining that.
Before you can apply.
Yes, before you can apply. The chain starts with the doctor and the medical certificate. So that's where we have started. But we've identified a number of actors in the chain who will be following up as well. And those people, they should know, the people who have obtained their PDPs through fraudulent means should rather make themselves available for retesting. Alternatively, we're going to cancel those PDPs, and those employers must take note, because some of them may be driving trucks on behalf of big companies, some are driving taxis and all of that. So once they don't have their PDPs, they will not be eligible to drive.
How many PDPs do you suspect at this point in time is illegal?
At this time, we have identified some 32,000 PDPs.
So are we saying that 32,000 drivers, illegal drivers, are perhaps on our roads then?
We're saying 32,000 drivers who are not fit to drive maybe on the roads.
You've conducted a number of raids already. How successful has it been?
It has been very successful because we've managed to identify the modus operandi. We know that the number of people who are not medically trained, medically qualified, who are operating surgeries where these PDPs are obtained, and they are generally working under the license of one, maybe sometimes local doctor who is registered but is no longer operating, and they pay a certain fee to that doctor to use the practice number of that doctor. So that modus operandi we've already identified, so we know how it happens.
How is the operations of these fake or bogus doctors affecting road safety on our roads?
It's a major issue. We've been flagging the issue of corruption within the sector as a contributory factor to road crashes in the country, and that is why we've gone on to these investigations. It is a big issue. We think that the people who are not fit, who are not properly trained to drive, who are on the roads, and sometimes they contribute to these accidents.
How prevalent is these fake doctors or bogus doctors here in Johannesburg and in Gauteng and in the rest of the country?
Well, we think it's a big problem. We thought it was isolated, but as we go into the investigations, we're finding more information that points to a number of them. So, yeah, that's why we've taken long now on this aspect of investigation.
And how are they operating, these doctors? Where are they operating from?
They open up surgeries in places mostly closer to train stations, taxi ranks, malls that are very busy. And that's where they operate from. And yeah, as I said, they're using the license of a doctor who's registered, but they themselves are not registered, so they're not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be dispensing medicines. We found that they also dispense medicines while they don't have pharmacy license to dispense medicines.
For all the drivers out there who know that they bought their PDPs, what is your advice to them?
Our advice to them is they should get in contact with us. We can arrange to get them retested. And if they don't do that, they will have to face the consequences, because we will also get to them some stage and arrest them.
Are you continuing with your arrest, or with the raids rather?
We are continuing with raids throughout this month of October. We will not tell people when and where, but we will be pouncing in certain places that we have identified throughout this month.
Mrs. Zwane, I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
giving us your time here in studio. That, of course, from the RTMC, you heard it. If you're a driver out there with a fake PDP, get in touch with the Road Traffic Management Corporation. Simon Zwane is, of course, they are saying that they're conducting raids all over Johannesburg. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at what's happening in terms of your weather for today. We'll start off by taking a look at South Africa's weather here. Isolated showers forecast for the southern coastline as well as parts of the eastern regions of the country there. What we're expecting for today are some showers to extend through that area and connect up with some rainfall that we're forecast for the southern parts of Botswana. Now, there really isn't too much rainfall to talk about today other than afternoon showers coming into southern Africa as a result of some very hot conditions there. In terms of your rainfall for tomorrow, we're seeing that coming all the way through in towards the eastern parts of the country. Showers and thunder showers forecast there, and we're seeing those storms once again developing. Taking a look now at what's happening in terms of your weather watches and warnings. Gale force winds forecasts up to 80 kilometers per hour on the western coastlines of South Africa there. We're also expecting a weather warning for conditions highly conducive to the spread of veld fires over the northern central regions. Today's weather sees hot conditions forecast for Upington at 39 degrees Celsius, Cape Town at 21 degrees and temperatures in PE at 24. Now, moving on from very hot conditions in South Africa, interior and the northern regions, well, that obviously continues into our neighboring states as well. Gaborone peaks at 36 degrees, Windhoek at 31, temperatures continuing in the 30s throughout most of southern Africa today. Now, onto the island regions, we see conditions which are going to bring in some cloud cover and possibly some rainfall as well over the northern parts here. Morone, Victoria, temperatures around the 30-degree mark and expecting some passing stormy systems there. Warm conditions continue on into Central Africa as well as wet conditions here. We're seeing temperatures ranging all the way through from 25 up to about 30 degrees Celsius in the west. And in the east, temperatures a little bit more mild around Kampala and Nairobi at 23 degrees Celsius. Now, lots of cloud covers forecast there. That extends north as well. You can see the northern parts there of Central Africa expecting quite a bit of rainfall. Moving on into the northern hemisphere and the northern parts of Africa, Tunisia is just expecting a little bit of rainfall for today. Now, tomorrow continues very similar. We're seeing some cloud cover and rainfall extending through the interiors there. That condition is brought in by warm conditions coming in, and indeed towards the west, towards the east, should I say, we see some hot ones there. 35 degrees in Mecca, temperatures in Riyadh at 30 and Khartoum at 34. Now, Cairo and Tripoli expect a little bit of cloud cover today. No rainfall forecast for these areas at the moment. We are expecting some around Tunis, as we saw in our weather map there. 18 degrees Celsius. Temperatures along the southern coastline remaining fairly warm, around 29 to 30 degrees. This, of course, is where we leave your weather for now. Have yourself a great day.
Violence against women, it also talks to such behavior where teachers, instead of educating kids and give them dignity, they strip them of their dignity.
The First Lady.
The First Lady, her action, it's just unacceptable. I must say that it cannot be condoned. If I had it my way, I would say we had to act and make sure that he goes to jail.
This scourge is not ceasing.
The angry people, the intolerant, it's so huge. So then the scourge finds itself within that particular environment. You cannot say that it's a standalone. It's influenced by social ills, economic challenges.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Hello and a warm welcome to PM News, and we're broadcasting live from Johannesburg.
4 decades later, the family is still seeking closure.
We need the truth, and the truth must be told.
Children often go undiagnosed because they are hidden away. About 1 million people in South Africa live with autism.
Creative recycling at play.
Mosaic has been around forever. I just had to find a new, fresh way to put and a new spin to put on it. So I decided, why not recycled cans?
Stay tuned to PM News for all your news updates every Saturday and Sunday from 1500 hours.
I think winter is definitely one of those seasons where you can really show off your sartorial choices. You can start from a single layer of a shirt, actually starting with thermals, build it up with the shirts. You can have beautiful knits over the shirts, like we've done with Jay.
This film tells the story of a very, very significant political figure in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, who happened to be a woman. She was Nelson Mandela's wife.
The exhibition is an exploration into Black femininity. Tabitha is a woman of colour, and she is exploring the historical exploitation of the Black female body.
Newtown Junction Mall hosted an epic contest in the cold where 3 top South African graffiti artists battled it out for the opportunity to become the Newtown Graffiti Face-Off Master.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa is a South African politician, a skilled negotiator, businessman, activist, and former trade union leader. He was a visiting professor of law at Stanford University in the United States in October 1991. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison, Ramaphosa was chairperson of the National Reception Committee, former Secretary General of the African National Congress in 1991. Cyril was head of the negotiation team of the ANC in negotiating the end of apartheid with the National Party government. Elected the chairperson of Parliament's Constitutional Assembly in 1994 and played a central role in the government of national unity. He is the current deputy president under President Jacob Zuma since 2014.
I guess as deputy president of the ANC, I would have been aware
Let us move forward to build a credible and honest, patriotic leadership of the African National Congress. Let us move ahead to build a renewed ANC, a united ANC, an ANC that is united from top to bottom, bottom upwards. That is the type of ANC that our people want.
Siyavuma.
How many times have you dismissed sniffles as just a cold and carried on with a stuffed nose and sinuses, assuming that the symptoms would eventually run their course? Perhaps a bit more quickly with a few doses of homemade remedies. We asked people about their perception and experiences with colds and flu and their expectations on treatment when visiting their GPs or pharmacists.
What do I think causes flu? I'm sure it's a virus. I don't think it's because swimming and with wet hair, and I think it's a virus that you pick up somewhere.
What I think causes flu, usually it's the winter season. You get cold, sometimes you get hot at the same time. Then you take clothes, you put clothes on, then you take them off. You end up getting a virus somehow and getting the flu virus.
I think it's the weather changes. It's a hot and cold, and I think there's a virus. This year, I think it's a bad virus because I hardly get flu, and this year I've been affected twice now with flu.
You know, when you have flu, you start by taking your Lemon, your flu stats, and then sometimes it gets worse, sometimes it goes away, sometimes you visit the doctor then.
I don't like medication. I'm gonna be honest with you. So if it comes to finishing the course, I must be honest, I don't finish the course with antibiotics.
To understand more about colds and flu, we spoke to Dr. Marlene McKay to help us understand how are people getting up for the colds and flu this season.
Every year we give the message out that the best way to prevent influenza is with the flu vaccine.
You're feeling sick, but do you have the flu or the common cold? What's the difference?
We must make a distinction between a cold and flu. A cold is a common cold which is caused by hundreds of different viruses. It's usually a milder illness, shorter duration. It involves mostly the nose, so runny nose, blocked nose, a bit of a cough, headache, sore throat. Whereas influenza is the more severe illness. So this one hits you, at sort of 3 o'clock you feel fine, and then 10 past 3 you feel like a bus hit you. So it's a severe illness, body aches and pains, headache, high temperature, sore throat, and the nose is usually spared. So patients tend to mix the two up. They'll just say, doctor, I could just have a bit of flu. But you have to make that very, very clear distinction.
The flu and the common cold are both breathing illnesses, but they are caused by different viruses. A typical cold or flu can last up to a week, but if you've contracted a more severe strain, you could be down for 2 weeks or longer.
From the time that one is transmitted, in other words, if I come into contact with someone who is carrying the flu, it may take a few hours or a day or two for that virus then to start causing symptoms. Once I've become infected with the cold or flu, it can last anything from 5 to 10 days, depending on how strong we are able to fight off that infection. But usually within 7 to 10 days maximum, you should fully recover.
10:00 hours Central Africa time here in the newsroom, Jumbo Africa. If you've just joined us, I'm Elvis Preslin. We'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Now today, Kendall, we look at the State Security Agency as well as the South African Revenue Service.
Yes.
They want to make sure that this book don't see the light of day.
Very unhappy they are about this book and want to find out from you, well, how do you think this needs to be handled with? I mean, what do you make of the attempts by SARS and the State Security Agency to ban this book?
Well, there you have it. Kolani says it means Poe is talking the truth. So they are trying to cover up for number one.
Atini says there's nothing wrong with the book. We need answers.
Well, there you have it. We need answers, and he's crying for those answers, Atini. You can also let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on the Facebook page. But our focus is also on a gunman who killed 26 people and injured 20 others in the U.S., in Texas, small town of Sutherland, Kendall.
Absolutely, and we want your opinion on this. We want to find out from you. What do you think the United States authorities will label this as? We've got three options for you. First one is, do you think they'll call it a terror attack or a mentally ill person who shot most people, or will they call it a lone wolf attack as they want to do?
Well, 56% says terror attack, 23% says mentally ill, 21% says lone wolf. From the 43 votes, I wonder why that is not updated as yet, but you also tweeting us on it.
Absolutely. Bafana Die Hard says mentally ill. If he's white, that's what they'll call it.
Jabulani says, I shudder to think what the Texas shooting would have been labeled if the shooter was a jilter lover, a jilted lover, I would imagine, of Arab descent, or perhaps a black or a Muslim. Well, there you have the answer in that question.
Spot on right there.
Well, we're also talking about sports this morning. Worrying scenes there from soccer.
From that match, yeah, that Telkom knockout quarterfinal between Kaizer Chiefs and Chipa United, and there you go. Khune stretched it out, and it comes out he's got a fracture on his face, an bone in his face, and it remains to be seen whether he's going to make it to that Senegal qualifier this weekend. And we want to find out from everybody at home, really, who's your preferred replacement for Khune should he get ruled out of that match?
Now, Siafana says, firstly, I want to wish my captain, Khune, 32-16, a speedy recovery. I think that Ronwen Williams is going to take that position if Khune has not recovered.
Desley says, I wish him a speedy recovery, but replace him with, choose a good goalkeeper rather than him. So yes, he hasn't. I think Desley, you forgot to tell us who you think they would be replacing him with, and who would be better than whoever it is that you think they would have chosen.
Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. The chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal has been shot dead in an ambush. In the U.S. state of Texas, at least 26 people have been killed, 20 were wounded in a mass shooting at a Baptist church. And here at home, ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his running mate and his preferred candidate for the Deputy President position in the leadership campaign for the party selective conference in December. Those are your headlines, but before we get there, let's find out from Kendall Makhamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. A very busy weekend we've just come out of, and big news is really about Khune, what's going to happen to him. We do hope that he recovers. Having said that, we'll see what the injury cover is like in the Bafana ranks. So which goalkeeper is good enough to take up his place should he be injured. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Nope. Sekola. Ooh. I think that clash from Lankies was not on purpose, but he couldn't stop himself, and Khune is hurt.
The nation is on tenterhooks as it waits to find out whether Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana goalkeeper Khune will make it to the crucial first leg World Cup qualifier against Senegal on Friday. And Manchester City are running amok at the top of the English Premier League as they equal a club record 9 consecutive league wins with a 3-1 victory over Arsenal at the Etihad.
Fernandinho, De Bruyne again. Nothing Tenacek can do about the second one.
Manchester City lead again. What a victory for the Lesotho athlete.
Tepo Matiwele from Lesotho wins a tough Soweto Marathon as Yvette van Zyl breaks a local runner's drought, becoming the first South African woman since 2009 to win the race.
Just outside the 2:40 mark, a 2:41.04. She crosses the finish line. It is South Africa's Yvette van Zyl.
All this in more detail we'll have for you in a few minutes' time, but do stay with Elvis as he's coming.
Muito obrigado, Kendall. Top story this hour. The chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in KwaZulu-Natal, North KwaZulu-Natal, has been shot dead. The taxi boss was ambushed on the road between Utrecht as well as Ozizweni. Now, sources say the killing is related to a feud over the Newcastle-Johannesburg taxi route. The killing follows last week's murder of another taxi boss at Ladysmith, also in the Midlands. 10 other people, including teachers, were killed in that incident. News from abroad now. Police are trying to establish the motive of a gunman who carried out one of the deadliest shootings in the United States in recent decades. U.S. media is identifying him as Devin Kelly, a military veteran dishonorably discharged from the Air Force 3 years ago. 26 people were killed, 20 injured when he opened fire at a Baptist church during a service in the small Texas town of Sutherland Springs. The gunman was found dead after the incident in his vehicle. U.S. President Donald Trump has described the shooting as an act of evil and expressed his sympathy for the victims. The latest mass shootings comes just over a month after a gunman in Las Vegas fired down from a hotel room onto an outdoor concert, killing 58 people and wounding hundreds. Now, a huge new leak of financial documents has revealed how the powerful and ultra-wealthy, including Britain's Queen Elizabeth private estate, secretly invest vast amounts of cash in offshore tax havens that are based in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. U.S. President Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is also shown to have a stake in a firm that are dealing with Russian sanctions by the U.S. Now, the leak, dubbed the Paradise Papers, contains 13 million documents, mostly from one leading firm in offshore finance. We'll bring you an update on that story and more during the course of the program or during the course of this week. The race is on. ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his preferred candidate for the Deputy President position. Now, that announcement comes during the leadership campaign for the party's elective conference in December. Speaking at a rally outside Groblersdal in Limpopo yesterday, Ramaphosa also confirmed that the former KwaZulu-Natal ANC chairperson, Khune, was contesting the Secretary-General position. Other members of Ramaphosa's slate included the current ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe for the chairperson's position and the current Gauteng MEC Paul Mashatile for the Treasurer-General position. Ramaphosa took his campaign to Mpumalanga and Limpopo this weekend. Meanwhile, efforts to bring unity within the African National Congress-led alliance will continue again today with a bilateral meeting between the ANC and the SACP. President Jacob Zuma will lead the African National Congress delegation, while Dr. Bladen Nzimande will lead the South African Communist Party delegation. Now, this will be the second interaction between the two leadership in a fortnight following the Alliance Political Council at the end of October. Yesterday, President Zuma also called for party unity. He says factions have been so entrenched that comrades now see each other as enemies.
As the year draws to a close, so are the celebrations of OR Tambo's centenary year. President Zuma did not waste any time urging unity among the ANC's warring factions.
Policy yethu ke ithi noma ngabe ubunama imbono strong against othile uthanda othile.
Our policy states that even if you have your own opinion against a person, respect the delegates at the ANC and the December conference.
Uma sethatha isinqumo athi nange simkhethayo noma ngabe ubungamthandi.
when delegates elect a person whom you disagree with, embrace the person because this will strengthen the party and will not divide it.
Ngoba lokho kuzokwenza ukuthi umbutho uhlangane ungahlukani.
The MKMVA has long thrown its weight behind Dlamini Zuma, while the West Rand declared its support for Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. With only 10 days remaining before the branch general meetings conclude their nominations, the race to replace President Zuma is likely to intensify.
Meanwhile, the ANC-NEC will decide the fate of its Eastern Cape executive this week. The new PEC had been elected at a chaotic conference last month, but members who supported the ousted chairperson, Phumula Masaole, are challenging the outcome in court.
Meeting to resolve internal squabbles. The newly elected provincial executive confident they can unite the party and win back the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro from the opposition. But first, it has to deal with the fallout from last month's chaotic elective conference. ANC members have taken their dispute over the conference to the courts.
What we will not agree about is members of the ANC that downplay the reality that the ANC has a provincial executive committee in the Eastern Cape. Henceforth, we are going to every region, work with them, seek to deal with those particular perceptions out there, whatever perceptions that they have. So we are committed to working with them, and there is no issue about it.
The fate of the newly elected PEC is in the hands of the party's National Executive Committee.
We are waiting for the decision of the NEC. Remember, this matter is an organizational matter, and as a region, we're supposed to follow, that is, the internal processes.
The ANC-NEC meeting is set to take place in Gauteng from the 11th to the 13th of this month. Anda Ngonji, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
The president's keepers. Now, the State Security Agency may have no legal basis to order the withdrawal of that book by Jacques Poe. Now, Pepelapi Dube, the director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, says on Friday, the lawyers representing the State Security Agency gave the book's publishers 5 days in which to withdraw it from the circulation and stop any further printing. They claim the book violated the Tax Administration and the Intelligence Services Act.
Does the law allow the agency to order its withdrawal? The Center for Constitutional Rights says no.
We're talking about a book that's been written by a journalist who hasn't been in the employ of either the State Security Agency or SARS itself. So it would appear as if the State Security Agency has simply misunderstood the law, and there's really no legal basis to seek to ban the book.
But the police minister holds a different view.
It is within the right of SSA to take him on the matters if ever he has actually published classified information. There is nothing untoward about that. It is a matter that happens in the environment we are in, because we can't allow people to undermine the authority of the state, including things that are classified. If they are classified issues, they must be attended to. And journalists must know that classified information is classified information. And rule of law must apply.
But what do ordinary South Africans make of the controversy surrounding the book? This gentleman says the book mustn't be removed before the president has responded to the allegations. He adds, if he responds and we can see these were wrongful accusations, we will support him in having the book banned. While this gentleman says we need to know before the president leaves how much of the state's money he's stolen. Whoever published this book, no matter their race, is welcome here as long as they publish the truth. The publishers are expected to respond to the agency's cease and desist letter this week, although it's already stated publicly that it won't accede to the state agency's order. Lukhanyo Khalada, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, I tell you what, that book has been flying off the shelves. More has been printed. although there's a cease and desist letter being requested there. So that's why we're asking you this question, very important question. What do you make of the attempts by SARS as well as the State Security Agency to ban the book, The President's Keepers? Let's take a look at what you are telling us. This one coming from Lachasa Batlamolo says, Jacques Poe, you have been man enough to write the book, President's Keepers. Truth has been told to South Africans. Viva Jacques! This one from Desley says, let the book sell, please. Christine Ngumalo says, where is real democracy, not centralized democracy? We're still allowed to ban. What offends a few? If no laws are broken, they must just deal with it. Well, there you have it from Christine. Very strong messages there. You can keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. Now, Sean Diddy Combs has changed his name again. The rapper announced that he will no longer be Puff Daddy or Puffy or Diddy. From now on, you can simply call him Love or Brother Love. That's the man's name. Well, there you have it. You remember Prince? There was a question mark around his name as well. Well, anyway, let's leave it for now. Cross-examination of the triple murder accused Henry from Breda is expected to continue in the Cape Town High Court today. Last week, he conceded under cross-examination that it would be strange for an attacker to enter his family home unarmed and to use weapons from the house. Let's now go there live.
Yes.
So it doesn't appear as if the fall down or on the stairs had very much of an effect on you up until that time.
Correct. But I also, my memory from that exact time is very vague. As I said, I don't know why I was heading up the stairs. I can only really remember that the study light was on because of the fact that I didn't have to look around and struggle to see. So it's impossible for me to tell whether that had an effect or not.
Now, as I understood your evidence earlier, last week, you infer that the injuries to your back, both the bruising or the scrape mark as well as the scratch marks to the upper part of your back, those were from the fall down on the stairs.
Correct.
When did you sustain the bump to your forehead?
I don't know.
You have no way of making a similar inference from when you must have sustained that injury?
Either from the fall down the stairs or from losing consciousness on my way back up the stairs.
Mr. Van der Waal, you are either very sure where you sustained certain injuries, when one has regards to the scuffle between yourself and the attacker, or you are able by way of inference to assist the court in saying that that must have been injuries on your back, must have been when you fell on or down the stairs. The only one you're not sure about is the bump to your head.
Yes. I didn't even really know that I had a bump to my head.
And is this not also why you have difficulty in explaining how you fell down the stairs? You're able to direct the incident between yourself and your attacker, but you can't tell the court whether you fell on the stairs on your back or whether you rolled down the stairs, which are two very different motions.
Yeah. Correct.
All that you are able to tell the court is that you eventually landed up on your back.
Yes.
Is that not, Mr. Van der Waal, why you have difficulty to enlighten the court as to how you fell down the stairs? Because that is the only possible version in your whole version to explain the bump to your head. Must have been on the stairs. But
Must have been on the stairs. I fell onto the stairs twice.
But now you have difficulty in explaining the injuries both on your back and on the front of your forehead.
Yes, because I don't specifically recall how they happened. As I said, I don't recall how I fell down the stairs. I don't specifically recall getting the injuries on my back, but I infer that that's where they must have happened.
Those injuries, Mr. van Breda, is it not because they are a combination of injuries that you sustained when Marley attacked you, when you attacked her, when she defended herself?
No, that didn't happen.
You see, if you have regard to the photographs of Marley in hospital, Exhibit G, she has what the doctor agreed on her right hand, an injury which could be because of a fist having hit something.
Okay.
And the bump to your forehead was also described as having possibly been sustained by a blunt force injury such as a fist.
Okay.
And falling back, if Marley attacked you in the doorway to the boys' room, there are many sharp edges there which could have caused the bruising to your back.
No, I disagree with that.
Which would also explain the difference in the bruising on your back and the scratch marks on your back.
Again, I don't agree to the premise of the question.
You don't agree to the premise of it?
Yes, you first said that there was something that would have been behind me in the doorway that created those marks. I'm disagreeing with you there, and then you're saying that those marks can explain other things. I'm saying no, they don't.
All the injuries can be explained by Marley defending herself against you during the attack.
And that I'm disagreeing with. Because where exactly are you saying that I sustained the injuries on my back from? Sorry, I'm trying to say, I'm just asking her to specify exactly what she's referring to when she says something behind my back that could have caused bruising and scrapings.
Put it to you, Mr. van Breda, the sharp edges, there's the door frame, there is the little step to the boys' room, there is an edge of a wall, there is the door itself, there are many sharp edged corners in that little entrance to the boys' room, which could have caused similar injuries as described by Dr. Albert. Not necessarily you fall down the stairs or on the stairs, which you're not sure of.
I disagree.
Where exactly on the stairs were you, Mr. van Breda, when you lost consciousness?
Just above the middle landing.
And how long did you remain passed out or out?
Well, when I regained consciousness, there was already lots of light coming in from outside, so the sun must have come up, and then I immediately went and phoned the emergency services again, so you can have a look at that phone call time.
So if one has regard to the timeline...
Sorry, I will. Thanks.
Sorry, Mr. before you do...
Sorry, I was saying we could, I'm not sure of the exact time, but we can have a look at the police timeline from the phone calls and get a timeline from that.
I was just about to put it to you. So if one has regard to the timeline as set out in Exhibit W, between the Google search for the emergency numbers and the first call to the emergency number, the actual call to the emergency numbers, that's a period of approximately 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Okay.
Would you agree then that that would be the time that you were unconscious?
Yes.
Did you lose consciousness sort of gradually, that you can feel yourself fade away, or were you there one moment and...
I can't really recall. I can only really recall what I saw just before I lost consciousness. I can't specifically say how I lost consciousness.
You have confirmed, Mr. van der Daar, that you don't suffer from any underlying medical conditions that would cause you to randomly lose consciousness.
Correct.
Have you ever before suffered such a random loss of consciousness for more than 2.5 hours?
No.
And you confirm that according to your plea explanation, you also didn't use drugs at the time of the incident which could have caused you to lose consciousness.
Correct.
Now, in your evidence, confirmed by the evidence of Dr. Van Zyl, you consulted Dr. Van Zyl on the evening of the 27th of January 2015.
Yes, I was.
That was
My aunt told that it wasn't my decision to go consult, but yes.
Did you consult any doctor regarding your loss of consciousness of 2 hours 15 minutes?
No, I didn't.
When you did consult Dr. Van Zyl, why did you not inform her of this incident, of the fact that you lost consciousness randomly for 2 hours 40 minutes?
Because I was just there to get. I wasn't interested in talking to anyone, explaining myself to anyone.
Dr. Van Zyl testified, Mr. van der Daar, that the two of you had quite a nice conversation during your consultation with her.
Yeah, I presume that was just niceties because.
You presume?
Yes, I don't specifically recall meeting her and having a conversation with her.
You do recall consulting her?
I recall getting the stitches, etc., but I don't really recall the doctor that well. And the specific conversation that I had with her.
Why don't you recall the doctor?
I don't know, it's a long time ago.
So it's not that you felt confused or dizzy, it's just a long time ago?
I don't know, it could be either of those things, I suppose.
So this event of you losing consciousness randomly for 2 hours 40 minutes is not something that you amended your version to address the 2 hour 40 minutes lost in the timeline?
No, this had been. I said this to the police. I just wasn't changing anything.
In your plea explanation and your evidence in court, Mr. van der Daar, you testified that you not only heard Rudy making gurgling sounds, but you also saw him moving rather violently on the bed, correct?
Correct.
In your statement, Exhibit SS, in paragraph 5, you make only one reference to Rudy after the initial attack, and that is when you say, Rudy was just lying there while your father was attacked. There is no further reference to Rudy in Exhibit SS at all. Either of him making gurgling sounds or of him moving about violently. Do you agree?
I agree.
So is this version of Rudy now moving about violently and making gurgling sounds, is that not an afterthought to address Captain Hubert's opinion that Rudy might have possibly been moved on the scene?
No.
Or handled, sorry, that's the correct word, handled on the scene?
No. Again, I didn't use the words, he was just lying there. I would have specifically been asked what was he doing whilst I was being attacked. I said effectively that he was incapacitated.
What did you tell the police about Rudy?
Mr.
Sorry, I will do.
Speak a bit louder, please. What if that was not your words to say that he was just lying there? What did you tell the police about him?
I told the police that I could still hear him the next morning. So I was specifically inquiring as to his condition from Colonel Bianca. I was specifically inquiring as to his condition to Colonel Bianca, and he just told me that they can't tell me anything again. He just told. I was just told that they can't tell me anything.
And the police chose not to put that in your statement, the fact that you had told them that you heard him the next morning.
Yes, it seems that way.
When you came to Mr. Van Breda on the stairs, what made you notice the blood on the stairs?
Seeing it.
So that was the only blood on the stairs at that time?
Can't be sure of that, but I specifically saw a patch of dried blood that was at the exact height of where my stomach had just been, and so I inferred that it was caused by the stab wound.
Just to make sure, Mr. Van Breda, you are able to observe this one blood spot on the down part of a stair and match it to where you think your stab wound must have been when you come to?
Yes, when I came to, as I was sort of, it was initially very disorientated, but could, as I was getting up, sort of push myself off, and this, and yeah, it just sort of clicked that was the same height that I would have expected, so it just sort of made sense.
But then how come you're not sure about whether there were other blood spots on the stairs?
Because I didn't specifically check.
See, Mr. Van Breda, an interesting fact of your version is you cannot remember where more or less you stood on the stairs when you threw the axe after the fleeing attacker before you suffered the head injury, but you remember this specific one blood spot out of possible others after you had sustained, on your version, the supposed head injury.
Yes.
The remembrance of this specific blood spot, Mr. Van Breda, is that not also an afterthought to sort of get some confirmation of you having lost consciousness on the stairs?
No.
In your version, Mr. Van Breda, the reason why you did not call the emergency numbers on the fridge is you actually had considered the numbers, but you decided they will not be of any assistance.
Yes. Well, not that I decided they would not be of any assistance, that I would be doing more by other means.
By other means?
Yes. By getting a number for the emergency services myself. Calling the security from the estate and having them call the police seemed like just another step where I would then have to explain what happened to someone who would then have to go and call the police and explain what happened.
See, because if one has regard to Exhibit D before the court, it is a photograph of the numbers on the fridge which you say you considered but didn't find that they would adequately assist you.
Yes.
There is a 24-hour emergency number.
Correct. I've seen this since, yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said after that.
Correct. I've had a look at this since, so I'm aware of the numbers.
But you must have considered it on the morning of 27 January as well, because you said you thought it wouldn't be enough assistance.
Yeah, I thought I'd be better off speaking directly to the people who are going to help.
And there is also the number of the control room of the security of the estate.
Yes.
2 numbers of the security manager, Marshal and so.
Yes.
There is indeed medical support numbers. Both a general practitioner, who's also 24-hour emergency number is on this.
Can I have a look at that?
They are all very nicely categorized. There's also contact numbers of friends, medical support, and others.
Mm-hmm. The headings are also in a different color, so you'll be able to scan the headings quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The headings are also contact numbers. The next one is contact numbers of friends. The next one is medical support. If you read the medical support section, the first number is vet savers. The vet and the vet's mobile number for Sasha. Then the general practitioner, who does have a 24-hour emergency number. Yes, I can see that. And one hospital number and a dentist number. And then there's other with a handyman and plumber and the domestic worker Clara's number.
So, Mr. Kambadar, the question is there's at least 2 24-hour emergency numbers, one for the Zalsa estate itself and one for a doctor. And you telling the court that you thought these numbers would not be of adequate assistance?
Yes, I thought I could get an ambulance quicker than getting these people to get an ambulance.
One for the security.
Because it's also an indirect way of getting help.
At that point,
nearby, they're on the premises, they would have rushed to your assistance.
Yes, I would hope so. But
an ambulance would have come from some distance.
yes, but an ambulance would actually be able to help. They would get there, and then call for help. I thought I could call for help.
at this stage, Mr. Kambadar, in your version, you were still of the view that both Marty and Rudy are still alive.
I was hoping so, yes.
Because you said you saw Marty move and
Yes.
you heard Rudy making gurgling sounds.
Yes.
Why did you not tell Ms. Philander, the emergency call operator, that 2 of your family members are actually still alive?
Well, I assumed that she was trying to save the lives of all of my family members.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Kambadar, but you take the trouble of telling her that your sister is still alive, but you make no mention of your brother.
Okay.
Why only the sister, not the brother? Just say 2 of them are still alive.
I'm not sure exactly why I didn't say that to Ms. Philander. I did ask for more than one ambulance.
You did that, yes. If I remember correctly, Mr. Kambadar, your evidence with regards to smoking the 3 cigarettes was you did that whilst you were on the phone to Ms. Philander in an attempt to calm you down.
Yes. Lit the first one whilst dialing the number.
So, just to make sure that I understand you correctly, is it your evidence that you smoked all 3 cigarettes whilst dialing?
No, I lit the first cigarette whilst dialing.
And then
I can't recall lighting the second and third cigarettes. I can't recall lighting the one. There's one lighting that I can't remember, but I specifically recall lighting the first one whilst the number was ringing on my phone, on the home phone.
And excluding to the fact that you can't remember when you lit the second and the third one, They were all smoked while sitting at the counter on line to the emergency services.
Correct.
So, Mr. van Breda, in your statement, paragraph 10 of Exhibit SS, you said, I'm going to read to you the whole version as from the third line thereof. I then got hold of the emergency number and then called the ambulance, but I waited for 20 minutes on the phone in the kitchen. I then called the uncle, again at about 07:30, and then later again, but it went again on voicemail, and I then WhatsApped her, and then I got through to the emergency people, and then they told me that they are going to call the police. I then opened the front door, went outside for a bit, and then I went inside again and sit in the kitchen having some cigarettes while I waited for the emergency people.
Yeah, again, not my words. When I was telling this, I presume that this happened out of sort of them, because by this stage they were quite familiar with my version, and so they were sort of guiding me through it. And so they would ask me, okay, that's where you smoke the cigarettes, correct? And I said, yeah, that at the kitchen counter is where I smoke the cigarettes. But this timeline, and again, all the thens, is not my words.
It's not your words, but is it incorrect?
Yes, as I described, I had the cigarettes from when I made the phone call. So the way it represented here, saying I then opened front door and went outside for a bit and then went inside again and sit in the kitchen having some cigarettes, that's not true. That came about by being led through my version, being asked, oh, when did you have the cigarettes?
Did you tell the police officers that, or they made it up?
No, I'm saying
Or they heard you wrong?
I told them that I had the cigarettes at the kitchen counter, but this specifically coming back in from the front door and then only having the cigarettes is not how I represent it, and I don't think it's how the officer that took the statement understood it either. So I also don't think it's how the officer that took the statement understood it. I think it's just...
So you think they misunderstood you?
I think it's what's being represented here is a misrepresentation of what both I conveyed and what the police officer understood.
So, despite the fact that the two of you were in agreement with what your actual version is, he writes down something else?
Yes, because, well, sort of. As I've said, yes, I'm explaining myself now. Thank you. As I've said, I would then tell them the story again, with Khune saying, okay, another police officer coming in, tell this guy what happened. And then I forgot to mention the cigarettes. So they said, didn't you have cigarettes, or where did you have the cigarettes? I said, oh, I had the cigarettes by the kitchen counter. And so they put it in there. So this misrepresentation is as a result of me having repeated my story and then filling in bits of information from the various times that I told them.
Because there is a difference, Mr. van Breda, between your version in the statement that you say now they must have sort of gotten wires mixed or something, despite your
words mixed.
Your words mixed. And what you testified in court. Because the statement creates a clear impression that you had already gotten hold of emergency services, you'd been waiting for them, gone outside, you come back, and then you smoke.
Yeah, again, all these thens.
The then is not important, Mr. Breda.
The then is important. It's established.
Don't speak at the same
Sorry.
time as the other way. Don't you wait till he finishes his answer? What is your answer first, Mr.
So she's saying that, just a response to you saying that then is not important. The then is important. The then is the word establishing the sequence in this paragraph, and I'm saying the sequencing is completely incorrect.
Because the sequencing is different from what you're testifying in court now, Mr. Van Breda.
Yes.
Evidence now is that whilst you were waiting for the phone to ring, or the phone was ringing to the emergency services, that's when you started smoking.
Yes.
No time lapse between the emergency service and smoking.
No, it was at the same time.
You made the landline in your house, Mr. Van Breda, that is a cordless phone, is it correct?
Correct.
Whilst on the line to the emergency services, Mr. Van Breda, why did you not move around? Like, go and check on your family to tell them, listen, they are alive. Please come quickly. Shout, go out the front door and shout for help.
I thought I was doing the most I could to get help. I thought I was doing the most I could to get help.
Sitting at the counter smoking, waiting for somebody to arrive.
Waiting for an ambulance to arrive, sitting at the table on the phone to the emergency services.
If you had shouted for help, would somebody have come? If you had gone outside and shouted help?
I suppose Miss Optoff may have come and tried to help, but I don't really think that she would have been much help.
Why not?
Because I was already on the phone to the emergency services.
So not even somebody coming in, putting a towel to your mother's head, to Maria's head, to Rudy's head, to your father's head. You think that would have been useless?
I think if it wasn't a medical professional, then no. I don't think they would have helped.
Because one thing when the medical assistance, that you thought Marley and brother were dying.
Correct. Correct. And if I thought that I had the capacity to physically help them at that point, I would have done so. But I didn't.
You never thought of the possibility of consoling them in their death? They died.
Jesus. Yeah, I suppose. No, I didn't think that I could actually help them. I thought that what I was doing was the most help that I could do.
If I remember your evidence correctly, Mr. Van Breda, the first thing you registered when you came to.
Take a break.
News, business, sports and weather from local and around the globe here on News Today.
It was important for me to nip all of these issues in the bud as they appear, so that we can give the assurance to the holders of pensions.
South Africa has more than 24,000 plant species which can be used to generate income for her citizens.
People believe that we as Africans have very little to offer the world in terms of science and technology.
The 24-year-old was the last rider to be caught after a break of more than 180 kilometers in Sunday's men's elite race at the World Road Championships in Bergen, Denmark. Smit is also the African road race champion, the South African race champion and the South African time trial champion.
Tune in to News Today every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m.
Thandi, what did you make of the social media reaction to the news of the death of Makaka?
People are trying to grapple with the reasons why this is happening. I don't think that's being explained nearly enough.
Professor?
KZN has got a history of this factionalism.
Why are police not getting to the bottom of the scourge?
It's a national disaster that we still are dealing with political killings.
Professor Daniels, just who do you think is behind these killings then? Let me put you on the spot there.
The problems in this country started when the Scorpions were disbanded. And is that what we're going to be seeing now? Deaths, smear campaigns and stuff like that. It's got to stop.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor and catch on analysts unpacking top stories every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Phones, cloud systems and robots have taken over a lot of what used to be done manually.
Our accounting system is actually based on the cloud.
Google nowadays can tell you where you parked your car.
And Africa's entrepreneurs are using technology to create.
With Pocket Masipala, you can basically do all the services that you would do at the municipality physically by going there, but you can now do them on a mobile app.
Join me, Spumelele Zondi, on Sundays at 9 p.m. on SABC News.
Jeffrey Tamsanga Radebe. In 1997, the ANC sent him to Mozambique and to Tanzania, where he worked as a journalist for a radio station in Dar es Salaam. Radebe created underground structures for the ANC and the SACPS outside South Africa, the organizer of a 12-day hunger strike on Robben Island in 1990. He is one of the longest-serving MPs from 1994 who served under President Mandela, President Mbeki and President Zuma.
There are many lessons from those years, including number that relates to the value of unity, not only of structure, but also unity of purpose, and which black business today would do well to heed.
He was Minister of Public Works, Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister of Transport, and Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. He has served as an acting president on many occasions. He was instrumental in accelerating and transforming the judiciary and making justice accessible. He is the current minister in the presidency.
We have a strategy for growing the township economy, for making the rural areas the engines of growth, to change the conditions of our people for the better. Let us implement our programs of action as one united force.
Well, today we discuss the general practitioner or GP.
So the quality of the doctors coming through our medical schools is excellent.
Your GP is your family doctor. Your GP is your first point of care.
Who determines how much a consultation fee should be?
We set up networks of general practitioners, and one of the conditions of the network was to agree to charge a certain fee.
Specialists are specialists. We can't take away their role. We can't take away what they do for each patient in their disease entity.
Our specialist colleagues as well don't appreciate patients coming straight off the street, as it were, to see them. They're highly trained.
For health tips that will help you to adopt healthy living, catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
The excitement is tangible in the chandelier foyer of the Artscape Theatre in Cape Town. Getting ready for a performance is 74-year-old retired teacher Reggie Dreyer. He once had magnificent dreams of becoming a pianist with the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra and, in 1960, passed an audition. But apartheid put an end to the dream. The theatre would not become a home to him. And, almost impossibly, he harbours no bitterness.
So much water flows under the bridge since then. I was very heavily involved in my own music and in choirs and in teaching. So yeah, it was disappointing, and now I feel very happy, very elated that the dream came true.
Half a century after he played a Mozart piece in his audition, he approached the orchestra's Louis Heinemann and again sat down to play the first movement from Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 23.
To play piano on this level at 74 doesn't happen often. And I was skeptical when he approached me for the first time, but the moment he walked into the audition and he played the first couple of notes, we knew that we could use him. And it was also time for us to make a wrong right. And I'm very happy that we could be part of this.
On a Tuesday afternoon, in the summer of 2017, Reggie Dreyer took his place in front of a grand piano in the Artscape Theatre to once again play the Mozart piece, this time with the orchestra.
That was the first time I got actually, shall I say, nervous, but I got a bit of butterflies, and strangely enough, my hands started shaking. But that was the first time it happened. But when I started playing, it was okay. It's okay again. Yeah.
And how did it feel? How did it go?
I was very, very moved, and I think the orchestra is really doing great justice to the music they were playing. So yeah, I felt at home when the concerto started, and quite at ease.
Dreyer says he still found fulfillment through music and taught many others how to appreciate it as a teacher. But playing with the orchestra is one of his great dreams realized. Flying in from London to be with her father on the big day, his daughter Lynn Connolly says Dreyer is a classical man that always felt the music.
It's where he's always wanted to be, and even though, you know, everyone said he's never played with a symphony orchestra before, when he plays the music, I genuinely believe that he hears the orchestra in the background. When he plays, he can hear everything. He's amazing, and I'm so super proud of him.
Artscape CEO Marlene Leroux says the theatre must be a home for all and in some way try to heal some of the wounds of the past.
With our program is the reconciliation program, and to say it's not just for the young to come, it's the healing process. And today we've experienced endless possibilities with the new South Africa, and how brilliant Uncle Reggie is still today, and how privileged we are as South Africans today to experience the miracle of how music can bring people together.
And at 74, Dreyer is not done dreaming yet.
Well, I must tell you that I've asked Louis Heinemann for the whole concerto. I've only played one movement, but I would love to do the whole concerto at another concert. And I hope that will materialize. Music does move me, you know, it does things to a person. And I think that's why I'm so healthy, because I do music. And I still feel young at heart, you know.
His fingers dancing on the black and white keys with joy is a gift Reggie Dreyer will cherish forever. Mariska Botha, SABC News, Cape Town.
Welcome to the bright lights of Johannesburg, right here on the newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
Good afternoon, or rather good morning, isn't it? I'm Kendo Makamati.
We'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Now, today our focus is on the State Security Agency lawyers who gave the publishers of Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers, only 5 days schedule to take the book off the shelves.
Right, now I want to find out from you, how do you want to get involved with this? Well, you can tell us by telling us what you think and what do you make of the attempts by SARS and the State Security Agency to have this book banned.
Well, that's the question we posed to you. Let's take a look at what you are telling us on the Twitter handle. This one from Memani says, this book is a very honest book. That's why most of these hungry lions, they want it out of the shelves, cause it'll hurt them, cause it is true.
Mtobedi says, when are they publishing books about white corruption? Are they that perfectly clean so there's no book about them? Well, Mtobedi, there is a book that's been released, something along the lines of apartheid, guns and money, maybe?
Yes.
It's been released.
Perhaps it's also there. So keep them coming and let us know what's on your mind. But we're also focusing on a gunman who killed 26 people and injured 20 others in the US. That's in a church of all places on a Sunday, right? In Texas, the town of Sutherland Springs, and that's why we're asking you this question on our poll today.
Yeah, we're asking you, what do you think the Texas attacker will be labeled as? A terror attack, B, a mentally ill person, or C, a lone wolf attacker?
Well, let's take a look at the numbers. 58% are saying it must be a terror attack, and the rest is being split up between the other two. Desley Lafellow says, make America great again, but killing your own people. Shame to gun control.
Yeah, very interesting there. Like 58% they're saying terror attack. Well, the other tweet that we've got is from Jawulan Nzilani, who says, I shudder to think what the Texas shooting would have been labeled if the shooter were a jilted lover of Arab, black or Muslim descent.
Then it would have been a problem, right? Would have probably been a terror attack, I would imagine. But we're also asking you a sports question today, because it was a hectic sporting weekend.
It was a massive sporting weekend, but really, once again, that things all be distilled down to Khune and the state of health that he's in after that collision with Yankees in that Telkom knockout quarterfinal against Chiefs United. Chiefs won, by the way, so they're through to the semi-finals. But we want to find out from you, should Khune not be able to make it medically fit to make the Senegal game, who should his replacement for that match against Senegal be?
Let's take a look at what you're telling us. This one coming in from one dealer says, Wayne Sunderland, he is a very good goalkeeper. Give him a chance, says one dealer.
I dare say at the national level, you don't want to be giving anybody a chance. You want people who can do the job. Malubongo Manyonya says, Sandylands, only if someone can tell him to stay in his line.
Stay in your lane.
It's a serious story.
Yes.
It's a serious story. If we don't have a second goalkeeper that people are proud of and have faith in,
we have a problem. Well, those are what you are telling us, but right now let's take a look at your news headlines. Chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in KwaZulu-Natal has been shot dead in an ambush. In the U.S. state of Texas, at least 26 people have been killed and 20 others wounded in a mass shooting at a Baptist church. And here at home, ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced the party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his running mate and preferred candidate for the Deputy President position in the leadership campaign for the party's elective conference in December. That's it. Your news headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Thank you very much, Squire. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Look, Sekola. Ooh. I think that clash from Yankees was not on purpose, but he couldn't stop himself, and Khune is hurt.
The nation's on tenterhooks as it waits to find out whether Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana goalkeeper Khune will make it to the crucial first leg World Cup qualifier against Senegal on Friday. Manchester City are running amok at the top of the English Premier League as they equal a club record 9 consecutive league wins with a 3-1 victory over Arsenal at the Etihad.
Fernandinho, De Bruyne again. Nothing Petacek can do about the second one. Manchester City lead again.
What a victory for the Lesotho athlete.
Tepa Matibe from Lesotho wins a tough Soweto Marathon as Yvette van Zyl breaks a local runner's drought, becoming the first South African woman since 2009 to win the race.
Just outside the 2:40 mark, at 2:41.04, she crosses the finish line. It is South Africa's Yvette van Zyl.
All this and more we'll have for you later on a sports bulletin around about 11:35 or so. For now, it's back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The chairperson of the Sizwe Taxi Association at Newcastle in northern KwaZulu-Natal has been shot dead. The taxi boss was ambushed on the road between Utrecht and Usezweni. Now, sources say the killing is related to a feud over the Newcastle-Johannesburg taxi route. The killing follows last week's murder of another taxi boss at Ladysmith, also in northern KZN. 10 other people, including teachers, were killed in that incident. In news abroad now, police are trying to establish the motive of a gunman who carried out one of the deadliest shootings in the United States in recent decades. U.S. media is identifying him as Devon Kelly, a military veteran dishonorably discharged from the Air Force 3 years ago. 26 people were killed and 20 injured when he opened fire at a Baptist church during a service in the small Texas town of Sutherland Springs. The gunman was found dead after the incident in his vehicle. U.S. President Donald Trump has described the shooting as an act of evil and expressed his sympathy for the victims. The latest mass shooting comes as just over a month after a gunman in Las Vegas fired down from a hotel room onto an outdoor concert, killing 58 people and wounding hundreds. A huge new leak of financial documents has revealed how the powerful and the ultra-wealthy, including Britain's Queen Elizabeth's private estate, secretly invest vast amounts of cash in offshore tax havens that are based in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. U.S. President Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, is known to have a stake in a firm that are dealing with Russian sanctions by the U.S. Now, the leak, dubbed the Paradise Papers, contained 13 million documents, mostly from one leading firm in offshore finance. The race is on. ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced party NEC member Naledi Pandor as his preferred candidate for the Deputy President position. The announcement comes during the leadership campaign for the party selective conference in December. Speaking at a rally outside Groblersdal in Limpopo yesterday, Ramaphosa also confirmed that former KwaZulu-Natal ANC chairperson Senzo Khune was contesting the Secretary-General position. Other members of Ramaphosa's slate included the current ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe for the chairperson's position and the current Gauteng MEC Paul Mashatile for the Treasurer-General position. Ramaphosa took his campaign to Mpumalanga and Limpopo this weekend. Now, efforts to bring unity within the African National Congress-led alliance will continue again today with a bilateral meeting between the ANC and the South African Communist Party. President Jacob Zuma will lead the ANC delegation, while Dr. Blade Nzimande will lead the SACP. This will be the second interaction between the ANC and the SACP leadership in a fortnight, following the Alliance Political Council at the end of October. Yesterday, President Jacob Zuma also called for party unity. He says factions have been so entrenched that comrades now see each other as enemies.
As the year draws to a close, so are the celebrations of OR Tambo's centenary year. President Zuma did not waste any time urging unity among the ANC's warring factions.
Policy yethu ke ithi noma ngabe ubunama imbono strong against othile uthanda othile.
Our policy states that even if you have your own opinion against a person, respected delegates at the ANC and the December conference.
Uma esethatha isinqumo athi nange simkhethayo noma ngabe ubungamthandi.
When delegates elect a person whom you disagree with, embrace the person because this will strengthen the party and will not divide it.
Ngoba lokho kuzokwenza ukuthi umbutho uhlangane
The MKMVA has long thrown its weight behind Dlamini Zuma, while the West Rand declared its support for Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. With only 10 days remaining before the branch general meetings conclude their nominations, the race to replace President Zuma is likely to intensify.
The ANC-NEC will decide the fate of its Eastern Cape executives this week. The new PEC had been elected at a chaotic conference last month. But members who supported the ousted chairperson, Phumula Masualle, are challenging the outcome in court.
Meeting to resolve internal squabbles. The newly elected provincial executive confident they can unite the party and win back the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro from the opposition. But first, it has to deal with the fallout from last month's chaotic elective conference. ANC members have taken their dispute over the conference to the courts.
What we will not agree about is members of the ANC that downplay the reality that the ANC has a provincial executive committee in the Eastern Cape. Henceforth, we are going to every region, work with them, seek to deal with those particular perceptions out there, whatever perceptions that they have. So we are committed to working with them, and there is no issue about it.
The fate of the newly elected PEC is in the hands of the party's National Executive Committee.
We are waiting for the decision of the NEC. Remember, this matter is an organizational matter, and as a region, we're supposed to follow, that is, the internal processes.
The ANC-NEC meeting is set to take place in Gauteng from the 11th to the 13th of this month. Anda Ngonji, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
The State Security Agency may have no legal basis to order the withdrawal of Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers. So says Pepalapi Dube, the director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. On Friday, lawyers representing the State Security Agency gave the book's publishers 5 days in which to withdraw the book from circulation and stop any further printing. They claim the book violated the Tax Administration and the Intelligence Services Act.
Law allowed the agency to order its withdrawal. The Center for Constitutional Rights says no.
We're talking about a book that's been written by a journalist who hasn't been in the employ of either the State Security Agency or SARS itself. So it would appear as if the State Security Agency has simply misunderstood the law, and there's really no legal basis to seek to ban the book.
But the police minister holds a different view.
It is within the right of SSA to take him on the matters if ever he has actually published classified information. There is nothing untoward about that. It is a matter that happens in the environment we are in, because we can't allow people to undermine the authority of the state, including things that are classified. If they are classified issues, they must be attended to. And journalists must know that classified information is classified information. And rule of law must apply.
But what do ordinary South Africans make of the controversy surrounding the book? This gentleman says the book mustn't be removed before the president has responded to the allegations. He adds, if he responds and we can see these were wrongful accusations, we will support him in having the book banned. While this gentleman says we need to know before the president leaves how much of the state's money he's stolen. Whoever published this book, no matter their race, is welcome here as long as they publish the truth. The publishers are expected to respond to the agency's cease and desist letter this week, although it's already stated publicly that it won't accede to the state agency's order. Lukhanyo Chalada, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, it's controversy around this book, isn't it? And that's why we're posing this question to you. What do you make of the attempts by SARS, as well as the State Security Agency, to ban this book of Jacques Pauw, The President's Keepers? Let me take a look at what you're telling us on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. This one coming from Maya the Bee says, They're all just covering up corruption. Clearly, they are hiding something from the South African citizens. This one from Jabulani says, attempts to block the president's keepers by SSA and SARS is a futile exercise as it served to boost the sales and reveal Zuma and state desperation. Christian Kleinans says, is it classified information that Minister Fikile is blowing on fascism, protecting the tainted? Well, a question mark on the president's keepers. Christian Kleinans. Keep them coming. We'll read those comments as they come in. And remember, these are not the views of the SABC. These are your views. So you can let us know what's on your mind. Municipalities need to be strengthened to deliver better services. That's the word from Cooperative Governance Minister Des van Rooyen. Now, he's been assessing the performance of municipalities in the Northwest.
The Northwest has 4 district councils and 18 local municipalities. Over half of them are in dire need of improvement.
Those that are enjoying our attention, there are 11 municipalities, 7 coming from the 2015-2016 AG's report. Those are the municipalities that obtained disclaimers. And the rest, coming from our own assessment as the Back to Basic program.
The Tswahing local municipality is one of the worst affected. A few weeks ago, the community took to the streets. The service delivery protest turned violent. They complained, a lack of water, a problem that's been running for years. Following the recent protests, water had been restored for a few days, but the taps have run dry again.
We have a lot of trouble with water. We can't tap baths, we don't have water for animals, nothing to cook with.
The municipalities lack the capacity to deliver on the concerns of residents.
We have taken a resolution that those local municipalities that falls within Ngakamudiri Mulema, we are busy trying to assist them to be water service authority.
The government says there are plans in the pipeline to provide better services. Lizetla Beskagni, SABC News, Mahikeng.
The police minister, Fikile Mbalula, has again sent a stern warning to criminals who use force against police officers. The minister says that violence against the police is a direct attack against the state. He was addressing hundreds of trade union pop crew members outside Pretoria yesterday.
The vibrant minister wants the killing of police officers to be nipped in the bud. He has urged the men and women in blue to respond with force when under attack.
Police murders are a serious threat to homeland security and the stability of the state. The murders of our police officers. I see people marching for the murders of farm workers. I've never seen people marching for the murder of police officers.
Crimes targeted at international arrivals at the OR Tambo airport to be brought under control. He says that all criminals will soon feel the sting of law enforcement.
We together must crush violent criminality. Those who have balls to point a gun at the state must know that the state is imbogoto.
Mbalula assured Pop Crew that a new national police commissioner would soon be announced.
We need a leader.
Meanwhile, Pop Crew has reiterated its support for Cyril Ramaphosa to become the ANC's next president. The police union lamented the lack of political will to investigate corruption at state-owned entities. Montlengeni Dipoku, SABC News, Irene, Pretoria.
33-year-old Harry Kotze will appear in the Katu Magistrates Court in the Northern Cape this morning for his bail application. The man allegedly drove his bakkie into a group of men last month, killing one and seriously injuring another. Kotze has been in jail since the alleged racially motivated incident.
Kotze faces a Schedule 6 offence for premeditated murder. The state alleges he drove his bakkie into the group of 4 men last month. The incident is said to have happened after an altercation between Kotze and the victims. 20-year-old Elcardo Crew died on arrival at the hospital, while his friend Eshrik Molino was seriously injured.
Wat se tipe persoon doen sulke goed
Who does something like this? Drive over someone and kills them because of swearing at each other? What type of person does that? Community members opposed bail during Kotze's last court appearance. The court heard that Kotze called the victims the K-word before he drove into them. The accused was convicted of criminal injuria in 2007 for calling a colleague the K-word. There have been calls for calm and for the law to take its course. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Katu, Northern Cape.
News from our neighbors now in Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF Youth League has called for the country's Vice President, Emmerson Mnangagwa, to be fired and be replaced by the First Lady, Grace Mugabe. The Youth League Secretary, Kudze Chipanga, says the First Lady has unquestionable loyalty and no ambition to work against the President Robert Mugabe. Zimbabwe's First Lady Grace has again attacked the country's Vice President. Addressing a multi-church gathering in the capital Harare, the First Lady accused Emmerson Mnangagwa of having wanted to wrestle power from the President Robert Mugabe for more than 30 years. Her attack is seen as a clear indication that she wants Mnangagwa out before ZANU-PF's Special Elective Congress in December.
A day of worship turned into a political rally. As the guest speaker, Zimbabwe's First Lady did not hold back.
You are finished. You are gone.
You will never rise again. You will be walking, but you will be a grave. You will be breathing, but you will be dead.
Then, an even stronger allegation with even more serious implications.
Privileged position, the information he actually wanted to wrestle power from the president.
Let me tell you, since the 1980s, he has always wanted a coup.
The ZANU-PF Women's League leader Grace Mugabe says she is prepared to be a lone voice in demanding disciplinary action against Mnangagwa for allegedly dividing the party. Mnangagwa has been under pressure since it was reported that a faction of the ruling ZANU-PF wants him to succeed President Robert Mugabe. Sophie Mkwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, we understand that President Robert Mugabe is expected to hold a media briefing today at 1400 hours, 2 o'clock this afternoon. We'll keep you updated on that story. Now, do you remember him? Sean Diddy Combs. He's changed his name again. The rapper announced that he will no longer be called Puff Daddy or Puffy or Diddy. From now on, you can simply call him Love or Brother Love. What do you want to call the man? Love or Brother Love? Remember Prince? He became a symbol. Yes, he reverted back to Prince later. Well, on that story, we'll bring you some more as well. Law enforcement agencies have apprehended another number of doctors around the country for allegedly issuing fake medical certificates to motorists seeking to apply for public driver's permits or PDPs. Now, most of these bogus doctors so far identified are foreign nationals and are using the practice numbers of local doctors to conduct their businesses. Now, that's according to the Road Traffic Management Corporation, or the RTMC. Another false female doctor tried to run away as law enforcement agents from the National Traffic Anti-Corruption Unit, the Hawks, the Health Professional Council of South Africa, and the Medicines Control Council and Home Affairs raided her surgery. Now, we continue with our focus today on bogus doctors, and earlier we talked to the communications officer from the Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigation, the Hawks in Gauteng, Captain Carol Malamu, on the problem of bogus doctors.
This is a national outcry. It is a national crisis because we have arrested numerous bogus doctors in the country whereby they are examining patients under false pretenses. We have our local registered doctors who actually rent out their practice numbers, as well as their practices known as the surgeries, to give to these bogus doctors who are coming internationally from our neighboring countries, whereby they could examine patients in their practices. Yes.
So is it then a fact that most of them are foreign doctors that would offer these particular services?
It is true, because what we have found with our investigation is that all these bogus doctors have medical experience. They were medical students who failed the examination. So they have the experience to operate, and they also know which medication to prescribe to the patients. However, they are not legally registered to practice in the country.
So what type of cases relating to these bogus doctors are you currently investigating?
We are currently investigating fraud and corruption, because remember, with fraud, we are also charging our local registered doctors for defrauding the medical certificates to the patients, whereby they are not the ones initially signing on the medical certificates, but the bogus doctors. So it is corruption and fraud.
How do you as the Hawks go about identifying these illegal or bogus doctors?
What happened initially was that we are working hand in hand with other law enforcement agencies and RTMC. We were investigating cases of PDPs, our professional driver's licenses, permits, whereby more than 32,000 applicants were signed off or examined by one doctor in a period of a year. So we found that very alarming with our investigation. Hence, we went to all these practices in the province and found out that it was only registered under one local doctor. And that was alarming. He cannot be in all these practices at the same time. So, yes.
So how many doctors have you arrested thus far, and how many you think is still out there that needs to be arrested?
In the province, we have arrested at least 5. The 6th one is our local registered doctor, who actually is renting out his practice number and the practices for the bogus doctors to practice,
Now, once you've identified the illegal doctor or fake doctor, what is the next step then in the process that the Hawks would follow?
The next step, initially when we're doing this investigation, we start with the HPCSA. They have to come in to authentify, to check whether the practice is registered. Yes, it is registered, but unfortunately, the people who are practicing are illegal doctors, are bogus doctors. So we refer the cases to our forensic analysis and to the RTMC to also come on board. Yes.
How serious do the Hawks take this issue of the PDPs, as well as there's other fraudulent cases such as fake certificates, licenses, and so forth, and how does that keep your workload going?
I'll start with certificates, the doctors that they are operating on. The certificates are not fake because it's under one registered doctor locally. However, the signature is fake. So we have, for us to compare, for us to get the authenticity of the signature, we have to get the local doctor sign and get all these doctors sign to check who is the signatory, who is the actually official signatory. Moving forward, we have noticed that we have actually in the country, we have experienced lots of accidents on our roads. With these 32,000 that we have found so far being illegal examined applicants for the PDPs, we have also noticed that a few of those, or rather many of those, actually are the ones who have been examined by these bogus doctors, which means these people are just going to the bogus doctors, getting their applications certified, whereas they didn't go through the actual official process whereby people need to go through. You need to be tested, your eyes, your blood pressures, all the medical examination needs to be done correctly. However, we've also found out that there's also runners where they actually convince an applicant to give them the application form to run to the bogus doctor to sign and make sure that they authentify that person that they are eligible drivers, whereas they are not. Initially, or basically, the person did not even physically go for consultation. So we can see that there's a lot of corruption happening. Also, we plead with our driving schools. They are also involved in this syndicate. Yes.
Will these people lose their PDPs?
Definitely. Our investigations are going towards that direction, where we are going to consolidate everything, bring it to book, and they will be called out one by one to check and verify that their PDPs are not legally registered.
Today on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new traditional court model.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law, by its nature, is consensual. That I have a right to affiliate, I have a right, therefore, to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of, if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Fraudulent certificates, diplomas and degrees are a problem in South Africa, with more candidates trying to secure jobs using fake qualifications. Now, the South African Qualifications Authority, SAQA, has up to the end of January this year already identified 1,276 fake academic qualifications, which include 444 South African nationals and 832 foreign qualifications. Now, some of these cases have already been handed over to the possible prosecution authorities. Presidency Minister Jeff Radebe said that government was hard at work securing the credibility of qualifications and South Africa's higher education system. The South African Qualification Authority has conceded that fraudulent qualifications are a problem on the African continent. Joining us now is the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Qualifications Authority, Mr. Joe Samuel. So very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning.
First and foremost, I would like you to give us a sort of background in relation to what you do as the South African Qualifications Authority.
Yeah, the South African Qualifications Authority is responsible for the oversight and the development of the National Qualifications Framework. So the kind of work that we will be talking about this morning is that the National Qualifications Framework is a framework that covers all the qualifications. It covers higher education, it covers workplace qualifications, it also covers basic educational qualifications. So, so that is the one thing that we do. So we've got this national register, of all the qualifications registered in the country. We also have got a register of those bodies that are eligible to provide these qualifications. So, a number of accredited providers. The National Qualifications Framework is also a regulatory framework. So, we're asking, and the regulations are there to make sure that all the providers of education and training, function within, the broad regulatory framework that we have set up. We've got the biggest database of learner achievements in the country. At the moment, it is in the region of about 17 million learner achievements. And so what that does, it allows us then to verify qualifications, of citizens in South Africa. And then we've got another important function, which is if somebody wants to come and study further in South Africa, or they would like to have a visa or work permit, we do the evaluation of the foreign qualification on the one hand, and then we also place it within the context of the National Qualifications Framework.
Now, it seems there's an increase of fake qualifications in South Africa. How widespread do you think is this issue of fake or fraudulent qualifications in the country?
Yeah. Look, I think, you know, we are just careful with the words that we use. So we don't straight out say that the qualification is fraudulent, because it's only a court of law that can determine whether a qualification you know, is a fraudulent qualification. So the term that we generally use, we use the term that it is a misrepresented qualification. And there are a number of criteria that we use to come to that conclusion. One, we are saying that where a person goes to, that the institution must be recognized in the country of origin, and if it's in South Africa, it must be an accredited provider. Number two, that the qualification must be registered on the National Qualifications Framework. And you know, number three, that provider must be registered by the Department of Higher Education. Alternatively, if it's a school, it must be registered by a provincial department. And then fourthly, that the documentation must be authentic. So in other words, if I present a qualification and my name is there, then, you know, the qualification must be linked to my name. So those are the four criteria that we basically use to say whether a qualification is misrepresented or not. Coming back to your question around, is there increase, you know, in misrepresented qualifications? What we have found is that over the last 3 years, in actual fact, that the number of qualifications, you know, it is on a downward trajectory in terms of the ones that we see. You must remember that we don't see all the qualifications in the country, and we don't verify all the qualifications. However, we do verify the qualifications of people in the public service, so in government line function departments. At the moment, there isn't a rule that says that all the public entities must come to SAQA, although there is, Parliament has raised this particular matter, and the Minister has raised this matter, and so on. So what we then also now, and public entities are coming to us increasingly for us to verify the qualifications. There is no specific rule that we must verify the qualifications in the public sector, so sorry, in the private sector. So in other words, what I'm talking about is largely that comes out of the public sector. So within that, we have actually seen a decrease, you know, over the last 3 years, but a small increase we have seen from last year into this particular year. Mm-hmm. So you would then ask the question, so how, you know, so what are the numbers that you're talking about?
Yes.
In general, we get, you know, qualifications that is, you know, less or about 1% of the entire number of qualifications that we, you know, that we verify. And we do know that in the private sector, you know, people are quoting higher numbers than our 1%. Mm-hmm. So in other words, in the public sector, those that we see, the numbers are around about 1%.
So, if we have to classify it, now once you've identified the misrepresented qualifications or the holders thereof, what sort of sanctions are you imposing on them?
Well, look, you know, the South African Qualifications Authority, what we do, as I said, we verify the qualifications. When we, you know, we do a couple of things. Firstly, when an employer, which is, you know, as I said, largely in the public sector, or it could be in the private sector for that matter, we are saying to them that they must make sure that people sign a consent form right up front. So in other words, if they give us the wrong information, if they misrepresent the qualification, that their name will then appear on a list of misrepresented qualifications. That list is at the moment a confidential list, but we report, you know, every 2 months, you know, to the Minister of Higher Education and Training that has asked us to put this list, you know, in place. At the moment, there is a bill that is going through Cabinet, and it will be shortly be going to Parliament, which is an amendment on the NQF Act. And what that will do, it will then allow us to, you know, to have a public register of fake qualifications if the qualification has been declared fake fraudulent, if it has gone through the, the court processes. So, so that is on the one hand what we do. And the second thing is that when we discover that a qualification has been misrepresented, we would go to the police and we will make a case, and the police will then follow it up to then take it through the criminal justice system.
And then just lastly, Mr. Samuels, what is the cost of these fraudulent, or shall we call it misrepresented qualifications to the South African economy?
Well, look, I think that's a very big question. We haven't done the exercise yet of determining, what is the impact in terms of the economy. And in fact, it's an exercise that we may want to do. But I think the point is that, and I think you said it in your introduction, that if there is one misrepresented qualification, then it is one too many. And so we must make sure that we protect the integrity of the whole education and training system. It doesn't matter whether the person has got a school leaving certificate that is misrepresented, or it's a higher education qualification that is misrepresented. All of these things, it actually attacks the credibility of our education and training system.
I thank you so much for your time, sir. That was Chief Executive Officer of the South African Qualifications Authority, Joe Samuels.
Sports Live, Saturday and Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makamati. Yes, I've got a cold, but you know what? There's nothing that's going to keep me out of work. First up for this morning, it's confirmed that Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune has got a fracture to a bone in his face. He's now scheduled to see a specialist. An update on the prognosis is expected soon. Khune was stretchered off in the 90th minute of his team's 1-0 victory over Chipa United in the Telkom knockout quarterfinals. The draw for the last four did take place straight after the match. Chiefs will play Bidvest while Polokwane City will host Bloemfontein Celtic.
A match that wrapped up the Telkom knockout quarterfinal weekend. Fans anticipated a thrilling game, and it lived up to expectation. It was end-to-end action as both teams attacked fiercely to break either defense. The last line of defense from both teams was unbreakable. However, Chiefs could have gone to the break leading comfortably. Two of their efforts at goal were ruled offside. It had to take a penalty kick to separate the two after a clumsy tackle from Chipa United captain James Ogwoso on Joseph Mulangwana.
And a flag goes up, warning moments. The referee gives the penalty. Bernard Parker does the job.
Although it was an exciting encounter, once again the officiating was questionable. It didn't go down well with Chipa United coach Tebogo Moloi.
Credit to my boys, played very well. We all saw what happened today. There was 3 minutes when the keeper was injured for such a long time, that injury period time. The spectator went into the field still. But well done to Kaizer Chiefs. Let them go to the next round. I guess that's what everybody wants.
The match ended in dramatic fashion as Chiefs goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune had to be stretched off after a horrible contact with Kurt Lenkis. The Chipa United midfielder also didn't complete the match. Steve Gompela had already used all his substitutions. Defender Daniel Cardoso had to stand in as goalkeeper. Khune's injury will be a concern for Bafana coach Stuart Baxter as the national team goes into camp in preparation for a crucial World Cup qualifier against Senegal on Friday. Lebantube, SABC News.
Right now, Manchester City are running amok at the top of the English Premier League as they equal a club record 9 consecutive league wins with a 3-1 victory over Arsenal at the Etihad before closest pursuers Manchester United lost 1-0 at Chelsea.
Fernandinho, De Bruyne again. Nothing Petacek can do about the second one.
City took their goals tally in all competitions so far this season to 52 as Kevin De Bruyne, Sergio Aguero and substitute Gabriel Jesus ensured a 9th successive league win.
The record breaker, Sergio Aguero against Petacek. Tiny little kiss off the inside of the post.
Alexandre Lacazette did pull a goal back for Arsenal, but Arsene Wenger's side are now 12 points adrift in 6th spot.
Here's Alex Lacazette as Arsenal look to halve the deficit, and they've done exactly that.
Theirs is the hardest goal to beat down. As Piliqueta.
And then later, Jose Mourinho's third competitive visit back to old club Chelsea ended in a third defeat as Alvaro Morata's first goal since September sealed victory for the champions at Stamford Bridge. And Tottenham Hotspur's Son Heung-min became the Asian player with the most Premier League goals ever as he scored in the 64th minute to secure a 1-0 home win over bottom club Crystal Palace. It was his 20th top-flight goal.
It's on! There is the breakthrough!
And other news that was headlining from the weekend, Evert van Sail is the champion of the 2017 Old Mutual Soweto Marathon. She became the first South African winner since 2009, crossing the finish line in 2 hours, 41 minutes and 6 seconds. She bagged 220,000 rands in prize money. This as Lesotho's Tshepo Mathibele won the men's race, beating last year's champion Sitanyehu Legese Yinesu of Ethiopia.
Hundreds of athletes came out for the annual Soweto Marathon. The routes passed the iconic places such as Vilakazi Street, the Hector Peterson Museum and the Orlando Stadium. Evert van Zyl had to relieve herself twice during the race, but she managed to stay ahead of the chasing women. After passing Mapaseka Makhanya, there was no stopping her from claiming the pole position.
And just outside the 240 mark.
The Soweto-born Makhanya, who led for the better part of the race, finished in second place. She received a warm welcome from the fans.
I'm just happy to have just kept the rhythm going and caught Mapa with 8Ks to go and just could continue my stride and just cross the line first. So I'm really happy. It was a bit emotional crossing the line today.
I'm extremely excited, and I think what took me through the race is the crowd in Soweto. It was so amazing. You know, people came out of their houses and supported me. I think that was the most amazing experience ever in my athletics career.
In the men's race, Tshepo Mathibele led from start to finish. Although he seemed to be struggling after the halfway mark, he regained his strength. Last year's winner, Yinesu, gave Mathibele a run for his money, but the Lesotho national held on to his lead and crossed the finish line in 2 hours, 19 minutes and 41 seconds. South Africa's Nsindiso Mphakathi finished third in 2 hours, 21 minutes. Mtutuzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
Right now, Shalane Flanagan became the first American woman in 40 years to win the New York City Marathon on Sunday. She beat three-time champion Mary Keitany of Kenya to the finish line. Now, Keitany's compatriot Jeffrey Kamworor, however, claimed the men's title.
More than 51,000 athletes started the race on Staten Island, run under heightened security this year. London Marathon winner Keitany wanted to rewrite the history books, eager to record her 4th consecutive victory in New York. But the day belonged to 36-year-old Flanagan, who had never won a major marathon. She clocked a winning time of 2 hours, 26 minutes and 53 seconds and waited at the finish for a disappointed Keitany, who finished about a minute later. Kamworor, meanwhile, held off countryman Wilson Kipsang. He claimed victory in 2 hours, 10 minutes and 53 seconds. Jack Sock will finish the year as the top American tennis player. Sock fought back from a set down to beat Serbia's Filip Krajinovic in the Paris Masters final on Sunday. He also miraculously qualified for the season-ending ATP Tour Finals in London.
When you put your nose down and keep fighting, things like this can happen where you're down. I think I was down 2 match points in my first match, and now standing here with the trophy. So crazy things can happen, and that's sports for you, and that's why we play.
And American Patrick Cantlay bagged his first PGA Tour victory, this after a three-way playoff at the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open in Las Vegas. Cantlay, German Alex Checker and South Korea's Wei Kim finished on 275, 9 under par for the tournament. But the American clinched the victory on the second playoff hole. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
Now to motor racing, where defending Sasol Global Touring Championship champion Michael Steven is all but wrapped up the 2017 title after winning one of the 2 heats in round 7 of the championship at Kyalami this weekend. With 1 round remaining, Steven, racing in an extreme Audi, now holds an 86-point lead over Sasol BMW driver Gennaro Bonafede.
There was no shortage of drama, excitement and controversy. Cape Town racer Johan Fourie was the surprise pole sitter after the earlier qualification rounds. Bonafede was behind Fourie in his BMW as he was out to stay in the title hunt. Fourie and Matthew Hodges had great pace, with Bonafede and Steven struggling to catch the pair. Fourie, who won the first hit, acknowledged that the championship battle was now between Steven and Bonafede.
It's going to be a ding-dong battle between the 2 of them for the remaining 3 heats that's left. But yeah, in between all of that, I still want to perform and get good results as well. So we just have to play it as we go along. But yeah, I'm going to give it my all.
The second race saw an inverted grid with the last-placed drivers in the first heat starting at the front. The intense heat late in the afternoon took its toll on the drivers and their cars. Bonafede was cruising to victory until he also fell victim to heat. Steven then cruised to victory but was reluctant to start celebrations.
We'll have to go back and do the points, but certainly a good result, towards taking the championship. So yeah, I'm quite happy.
Bonafede, who led the championship for the best part of the season, was hugely disappointed seeing his title hopes disappear. Steven leads by 86 points going into the final round, with 106 points up for grabs at Swartskops later this month. Bonafede can still win the title, but it will mean major mishaps from Steven in his Audi. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
And then finally in rugby news, the Cheetahs remain 3rd in Conference A of the Pro 14 competition, despite suffering a 23-15 loss to Connacht and Galway last night. This is on the weekend. The 4th-placed Irish side led 13-3 at half-time.
Cheetahs getting a warm welcome, their first trip to the sports ground.
Following losses to Ulster and Munster in September, the Cheetahs were eager to record their first win against an Irish side in the competition. But they had a very slow start. Connacht were first on the board in the 6th minute through a Craig Ronaldson penalty. Minutes later, speedster Nii Adiolokun scored upon his return to the starting 15.
From Obi, what a try this is going to be for Adiolokun, and what a return it is as well.
The Free State side had to wait 40 minutes for their first points. Vlahoff and Stapelberg succeeded with a penalty in the dying seconds of the first half, the hosts going into the break with a 13-3 lead. In the second half, the Cheetahs' woes continued. Connaught hooker Tom McCartney crashed over in the 49th minute, and number 10 Jack Carty converted to give the hosts a comfortable 23 lead. The Cheetahs finally got some momentum in the last quarter. Replacement scrum half Sean Fenter found the gap to score the first of their 2 tries.
It's a try for the Cheetahs, and maybe, just maybe, there's something there for them.
And with 5 minutes left, wing Makazole Mapimpi caught the opposition napping after a quick tap and go by Lock Reniel Hichu.
And now he's going to have the chance to score a try. Really well taken.
But it was too little too late. Connaught held on for the 23-15 win, the Cheetahs narrowly missing out on a vital bonus point. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
And of course, in the other Pro 14 match on the weekend that we have an interest in, it was the Kings against Ulster. It was a thrill of a match, which the Kings were pipped to the finish line by Ulster. 43-36, Ulster won in that match out in Zwede. Now, cross-examination of triple murder accused Henry van Breda is underway at the Cape Town High Court today. Last week, he conceded under cross-examination that it would be strange for an attacker to enter his family home unarmed and to use weapons from the house. Let's go back there now live to hear what's going on.
Okay.
What they did find, Mr. van Breda, is the DNA of Rudy and your father on your shorts.
Correct.
And of your mother on your one sock.
Correct.
The clothes that you wore during the incident.
Correct.
As well as your DNA and that of Rudy in the shower, corner of the shower in the boys' room.
Correct.
Your explanation for the, what I presume you agree with, the blood in the shower, is that you might have cut yourself shaving.
There's no evidence to suspect it was blood. It was presumed to be blood.
My lord, that...
Yeah, that's exactly what she put to the...
That is
no respect to nonsense. The blood is found in the shower. It's a fact. That's what she put to it. That's why I'm different. What is it? What? She said, your explanation for the blood in the shower is this and that. I object, said, no, there's evidence it was blood. It's presumed to be blood. That's all it is.
Lord, the witness is
just put the question as Mr. Bertha said, presumed to be blood.
My lord, just for record purpose, I put to the witness that your version, I presume you agree with it, is your blood in the showers because you cut yourself. So I don't understand how Mr. Bertha now is of the view that I didn't put in that it is blood. But I will rephrase the question.
The presumption is that it's blood. Okay, if you just submit your question.
I will just submit.
Get along.
Mr. van Breda, your explanation for the presence of your DNA in the shower is that you might have cut yourself shaving. Correct?
One of the things, not the only.
Sorry?
I don't think it's necessarily the only explanation. I also don't think it.
See, Mr. Van
I said that I did shave in the shower. It was a regular occurrence.
What are you saying?
I was saying that it's a regular occurrence for us to shave in the shower.
So you shave while showering?
Sometimes.
You have now amended and said not I shave, but for us to shave in the shower, including Rudy in that.
Yeah, I'm not amending anything. It was never my version that Rudy didn't shave in the shower. I just disagree with her saying that I'm amending my version. But yes, Rudy would also shave in the shower, so would Dad.
Just for the sake of record purposes, Mr. Van Breda, any blood that would end up in the bathroom, even if one has regard to stains 33 and 34, just inside the bathroom door. Do you recall what I'm referring to? The two stains just inside the bathroom door, which Captain van der Westhuizen, who testified on behalf of the state, said he does not want to characterize it as shoe prints because he didn't have enough characteristics. Mr. Stale, on behalf of the defense, said the one he agreed is he cannot say whether it's a shoe print. The other one, he was of the view that it's in actual fact a shoe print from Constable Martin.
Yeah, no, that can't be accounted for by shaving in the shower, no.
And if one has regard to the fact that blood can't move on its own volition, it has to be transferred there by way of something or someone. Correct?
Correct.
You must just answer.
Correct.
On your version, the attacker whom you saw never ventured into the bathroom.
Correct.
If it was not blood in the shower, what else could it have been?
What do you mean? In the shower? Well, in the shower, considering it's presumed blood, it could either be blood from us shaving or us touching the walls would leave.
Other than blood, what could you say?
What do you mean? What could what have been?
You accept it was blood.
No. I'm saying if there was blood in the shower, it would have been from us shaving in the shower.
What was it?
What is the it that we're referring to, my lord?
The DNA.
Then it was maybe that we've touched that part of the shower recently. I don't know. I can't specifically.
Then, in your version, Mr. Van Breda, if I understand correctly, neither the Axe Exhibit 1 nor the Knife Exhibit 2 was taken into the bathroom after the attack.
Correct.
And if one, as we've already done, excludes the intruder or the attacker, and your family have all been attacked outside in either the bedroom or the passage, it was only you left who could transfer blood from the bedroom into the bathroom.
That is respect of this prospect for his statement. How can my little colleague, as a fact, put that to do with it? We know that there were a number of people after the fact on the scene. We know that, for example, from the state's own evidence, that the then investigating officer clearly stepped into blood because he left prints of it inside the bathroom. To put it as a fact, there's no basis for that.
No, it wasn't put to the witness as a fact, it was put
I
to
know
the...
that being preposterous, but I didn't get the import of your question either.
It was put as a possibility, my lord. It was never put as a fact. I don't understand how counsel sees my questions as a fact. Secondly, it is not the state's case that that Constable Marta stepped into the bathroom. It was a defense witness who said the print in the bathroom matches. Okay. That is hearsay evidence. Captain van der Westhuizen, who testified on behalf of the state, said he would not even classify those marks in the bathroom as shoe prints.